after documents from the water meeting. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council regular meeting. Today is November the 17th. We will get started. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. And so we will stand and we'll have Councilmember Perez lead us in the flag salute.
Everyone, please join me. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Perez. Madam Clerk, can you please take roll?
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Here.
Councilmember Perez,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
Here.
and Mayor McQueen-Lejeune.
Here. We are now going to have our inspiration from Councilmember Perez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So my inspiration is in honor of the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. As we approach Thanksgiving, let us carry a spirit of gratitude into our work tonight. Gratitude reminds us to see the good in our community, our dedicated staff, our volunteers, our local businesses, and the neighbors who quietly show up for one another every day. This season encourages us to slow down, reflect, and remember that leadership is an act of service. May we lead with generosity, humility, and patience, even in moments of disagreement. And may our decisions tonight reflect not only what is practical, but what is compassionate and fair. When we work together with thankful hearts, we strengthen the bonds of trust, unity, and hope that make our city a place we're all proud to call home.
Great, thank you. We're now going to move on to public comments not related to the agenda items. Madam Clerk?
Okay, and Madam Mayor, I just wanted to note that we had received one written public comment that had been received and was provided to the City Council prior to this meeting. In addition, the comment was posted to the city's website and included in the agenda packet binder that's available in front of the council chamber for the public's review. We do have two public comments. First one is from David Aviles.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Good evening.
Same to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Martha, City Council members of Port Hueneme, and community members of Port Hueneme. My name is Lieutenant David Aviles, and my wife, Lieutenant Monique Aviles, and I are the Salvation Army Corps officers of the Salvation Army Oxnard Port Hueneme. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Salvation Army today. So as we enter the holiday season, you may notice the familiar sights of our red kettles and volunteers ringing the bells outside of the local stores in the city of Oxnard and in coming into the city of Port Hueneme. Now, this tradition is more than just a symbol of Christmas. It's a lifeline for families in need right now in Oxnard and in Port Hueneme. The Salvation Army has been serving the communities of Oxnard and Port Hueneme since 1899. That's over a century. And for over a century, we stood along families in times of need. Every dollar that's placed inside of the red kettles stay local and go directly to fund and support community practical assistance like groceries, warm clothing for children, utility assistance, emergency shelter, and also case management. Through efforts like this, last year alone, the Salvation Army Oxnard Port Hueneme was able to assist over 10,000 people providing food, diapers, housing support, utilities, and guidance through case management. And it doesn't stop just at Christmas for us. Programs like our Angel Tree toy distribution bring joy to children during the holidays and help families throughout the year. The Red Kettle campaign of the Salvation Army has a rich history. It began in 1891 in San Francisco when a Salvation Army officer placed a pot at the docks to collect funds to feed hungry sailors. That simple idea grew into a worldwide United States tradition and today continues to represent hope and compassion during the holidays. So this year, we invite you to join us in making a difference. Whether it is by donating or volunteering by ringing a bell or simply spreading the word, your support ensures that the families in Oxnard and Port Hueneme experience the joy and dignity that they deserve this Christmas. In addition, I also have with me flyers that include our website where you can sign up to volunteer as a bell ringer through our Register to Ring, and a QR code for our virtual kettle to make easy giving online and sharing with others. And I just want to again thank you for the time, and thank you for helping us bring hope to this community this season. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any comments, questions? Yes. Thank you. I do want to just thank you for beginning the first annual kettle kickoff that really informed me of the Oxnard Port Hueneme collaboration from the Salvation Army. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Greg Ross.
Good evening, City Council, esteemed council members, Mayor McKinley-Jean. Thank you for listening, first of all. Secondly, I have two things. I always like to start with positive. Port Hueneme is very responsive, and I've asked the county supervisors to hold off on the bulldozers, on the sand, pushing of the sand in the middle of the night, and their backup alarms. And I'm here to tell you that my community is telling me, they're coming to me saying, it's so quiet at night, I love it. Thank you for everything you do towards that end. Secondly, truckers, especially from the port, of course. Sergeant Bates, he rocks. He walks on water as far as I'm concerned. I used to call once a day to the PD and say, hey, you got a semi-tractor trailer rig on this street or this street. Our city streets I only do it like once every 2 weeks now. It's great. And so Sergeant Bates deserves a lot of credit. Okay, so what I'm really here for is, 10 years ago, I didn't know what a lithium-ion battery was. According to Christian Dekas at the port, 20 to 23% of all the vehicles they bring in to the port, and their revenue's down a little bit with the RoRos, but 20 to 23% are all electric vehicles. Plus, they're putting lithium-ion batteries in their equipment for offloading the container ships. So there's a lot of lithium-ion batteries over there. And so you have a packet there that I sent you. 3 times that I know of that I've looked at online in California, 3 times there have been major lithium-ion battery fires. San Diego, back in July 7th. Moss Landing in the Sacramento Delta on January 6th of this year. And then there's one more in your packet there, and that was Sylmar on the I-5 freeway in August. Okay, this is a real serious problem. And city and county governments are guilty in a general sense of actually being reactive instead of proactive. So I understand from City Manager Vega that Mike Morrison from the port and Chief Federico have talked about this, but we need an Amber Alert. That's what I'm asking you for. Not one that everybody has to sign up for, one that Amber Alert goes off, everybody's cell phone here is gonna go off. That's what we need, because the toxicity that's gonna go into the air and fall in our community is lethal.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
That concludes public comment.
Great, thank you. So let's move on to the agenda approval. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Great, Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great. We'll move on to conflict of interest. Do any members of the council have a conflict of interest for any of the items on the agenda this evening? No? Okay, we'll move on to our presentations. We'll have, let's see, Please welcome our Human Resources or Risk Manager, is Frank here? Oh, hi, Frank. Frank Lee, to provide the introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem City Council, Frank Lee, HR Manager. Each quarter, the city likes to introduce and celebrate an employee who achieves a milestone in terms of their anniversary with the city. And this quarter, we have an employee from the police department who celebrated his 25th year with the city, and he also walks on water. I'd like to introduce the chief and Sergeant Bates.
Grow a beard.
Good evening, everyone. We are here to celebrate Ryan's 25 years with the city. And prior to that, he spent how many years with Santa Paula? 2 years as a reserve officer with Santa Paula before coming to us. We always steal the best from everyone else. So here, during his tenure, Ryan has served in the positions of patrol officer, detective, was a former canine handler, and he was a motor officer, one of the first in the city. He's been a traffic collision investigator for many years and a patrol sergeant. But as you heard from the president of the Ryan Bates Fan Club, Mr. Ross, he has also been the department's first full-time traffic sergeant. We've always had traffic sergeants collaterally in the past, working patrol that would oversee whoever the one traffic officer was. But with the help of city staff and this council, we actually built out, as you recall, a full-time traffic unit. And we needed a sergeant to run that. And then he took on things like parking. And under Ryan's leadership, we really progressed parking, and we rebranded them. And they are having such a better work environment, and that was all under Ryan's care. So also as that traffic sergeant, you have to remember Ryan was excited, never thinking he would get on a motorcycle again, but as a traffic sergeant, you get a motorcycle. So he is your second motor officer out there. He wears a lot of hats. And for the latest thing Ryan has taken on for the department was our first ever UAS drone team, as we started to accumulate drones over the last couple of years, the first one being with the VCTC grant for investigation purposes. And so Ryan's got a background in it. He has really expanded his knowledge in that world. And he has led the team now, and they've had very successful events with our drone, including the pursuit and foot chase off of Pleasant Valley just last week, that we would have not found this guy as fast as we did if Ryan didn't take out what I call the pocket drones out of the back of the car, throw it up in the air, and we found him hiding in somebody's backyard. So that's all due to the efforts by Ryan. So in his questionnaire, we asked him, what do you like best about working in the city of Port Hueneme? Ryan said, being a part of this agency's growth and advancement over the decades, going from handwritten reports and Polaroid photos to live computer-aided dispatch, digital body cameras, and of course, drones. What is your favorite work moment thus far in your career in the city, we asked him. He said, working late one night, and I had been running after a wanted person over here off of J Street, only to find out when I checked my phone minutes later after being in this foot chase, because it kept ringing and ringing, after he caught the suspect, he looked and he had 5 missed calls from his wife telling him she was in labor with their first child. She's 25? Yeah.
Wow.
So when we talk about people that have helped to build up Hueneme to what it is, whether it's technological advancements or leadership opportunities, that's what Ryan encompasses. We appreciate his efforts into the worlds of like traffic and traffic investigation, which unless you were good at like geometry in high school or algebra, you got to use formulas and that stuff. It takes somebody with Ryan's skills and intelligence to want to take that stuff on, and he does. So with that, folks, I will turn over the mic to Ryan. Let's congratulate Sergeant Ryan Bates on his 25 years. Thank you. Any comments?
Any comments?
Yeah.
Do you have the certificate?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. Any comments?
Yep, we'll start down here.
Mhm.
So apparently you're related to Jesus. So, thank you, Ryan, for all the work that you do. You pretty much handle a department that's a big concern for our community, which is traffic. And you've done a great job in making sure that you've heard the community's concerns, and what you do with the I don't know what that's called, but the guys who are doing donuts and what is that you're doing?
Referring to taking cars to car jail. Yeah, the
Correct.
reckless driver.
Yes, that.
Ryan was the first one to put a search warrant together on the first one on video and go track the car down and tow it.
So I think that's fantastic. So thank you for your, just all the things that you're doing, and the truck traffic, as Mr. Ross was talking about, and all the different things that have been coming into our agency to bring us into the new technology. I know that it's been a while since we've had all this stuff, and I'm glad to see that it's coming in, and the drones are going to be a very important part of future, I imagine. So thank you for everything that you do.
As I sit up here at the dais and I imagine longer hair and a beard, and if you drop all the gear, I think you would definitely look like Jesus.
Part the traffic.
My colleague right here said you're never going to live that down, so we'll make sure you don't. But thank you very much for your 25 years of service here in the wonderful city of Port Hueneme. I love seeing you. I saw you a few months ago getting ready with the drone, and I'm always amazed at how fast you guys could pick up new technologies. I know I can't, but you're doing a wonderful job with it. That was pretty cool, so thank you.
I'm just trying to keep up with the kids.
Hey, Ryan, I just wanted to offer my congratulations on your 25 years. Congratulations to you, your wife, and your baby. Your 25-year-old baby.
We got 3 now.
Oh, 3 now, okay. Well, congratulations to your family. You know, there was a time a while back where you were given some accolades for writing a grant. I heard from the people who did the grant review, and they said whoever wrote this did a fabulous job. So I just think you are top-notch professional law enforcement officer, and congratulations. Glad to have you here. Thank you for all your good work.
Thank you.
It's an honor to recognize your 25 years of service to our community, dedicated service. Your steadfast professionalism, tireless commitment have kept our community safe and vibrant. On behalf of the council and residents, we express our deep gratitude for your leadership, service, and lasting impacts. We look forward to many more years of your exceptional service. We were supposed to recognize you last city council meeting, but you were busy keeping us safe, so thank you for what you do. I really appreciate the work and dedication that you put into the PD. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I'll just say thank you, and thank you for my first experience, my first ride-along. It was a chase, and I was able to sit with you and watch you through the drone, and you got the guy, well, the chief was able to arrest the guy, and so it was a great experience. But, unicorns are, something very special. And I think the only problem we have sometimes with unicorns is when they leave, you have to fill them with multiple people, right? But I know that you're doing a great job in training those who are coming up behind you. And so I'm confident when it is time for you to go, and hopefully that's way far down the road, that you would have trained folks to come and fill in where you leave off, right? So we appreciate all that you do, and it's just really nice to have people that are in the city, that are committed to our city and our residents, not just a job though, right? But being part of the community, really. And I'm just thinking about 25 years. Sometimes we say, oh, it's been 25 years. But when you really think about it, 25 years is a long time. And so we just appreciate all that you've done for us and our community. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I think we're going to take a picture. Yes. It's up to you.
How about Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem?
One, two, three.
Thank you. And now we're going to move to our Native American Heritage Month proclamation to be read by our Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Gama.
Thank you. So my wife works for the Owens Valley Career Development Center, which is an organization that works to bring Native Americans to services and benefits that they're qualified for. And she tells me there's 69 tribes represented in Ventura County, so that's pretty interesting. So here we go. Proclamation, Native American Heritage Month, November 2025. Whereas November is recognized as Native American Heritage Month, honoring the history, culture, and ongoing contributions of Native American peoples across the United States, and whereas California is home to many sovereign tribal nations and Native American communities with deep ties to this land, languages, and traditions, with cultures that continue to thrive in our cities and regions, and whereas the area known as the city of Port Hueneme rests on land traditionally stewarded by the Chumash peoples, whose connection to the coast, estuaries, and channel waters continues today. And whereas Native American communities contribute to Port Hueneme and Ventura County through leadership, service, education, cultural preservation, environmental stewardship, the arts, and local enterprise. And whereas the city affirms respect for tribal sovereignty and is committed to meaningful engagement with Native American communities on matters of shared interest, including cultural recognition, language revitalization, historic preservation, and environmental resilience. And whereas the city encourages learning, partnerships, and participation in gatherings that celebrate Native American heritage, including programs led by local tribal communities, cultural organizations, schools, and libraries. And whereas recognition alone is not enough, and ongoing action is needed to elevate Native voices, support youth, protect sacred and cultural resources, and promote accurate education about Native American histories and present realities. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme does hereby proclaim November 2025 as Native American Heritage Month in Port Hueneme, and calls upon residents, schools, agencies, and community partners to honor the resilience and leadership of Native American peoples, to learn from local tribal histories and cultures, and to engage in activities that advance understanding, respect, and partnership throughout our community. Proclaim this 17th day of November 2025.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Gama. We're going to move on to our consent calendar. The consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless a council member would like to pull an item. Any items to be pulled?
I have a question on the disbursements.
Okay. A single question or just a couple?
Yeah,
Okay.
just a single
Okay.
question. Item 2.
I have a question on item 2 as well.
Item 2. So let's just go ahead and pull item number 2. Is there a motion and a second to approve the remaining consent calendar items?
Move to approve remaining items.
Second.
Great, thank you. Madam Clerk, a vote, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And Councilmember Hernandez, can you just pull your mic? Thank
Sorry,
you.
out of practice.
Great.
Missed one meeting, I'm out of practice.
Okay, let's go ahead and move to item number 2. Councilmember Hernandez, you have a
Yeah,
question?
I'm glad the chief returned to the room, because I have a question, and maybe the city manager can answer it, or the chief can answer it. But this has to do with the drug detection canine for Gator, detection training. Is this for the dog itself, or is this for the handler? Hello?
So the item that's listed on the disbursements is for the purchase of the dog, which also included training of the dog.
Oh. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so it's the purchase of Gator and including his training.
The training in detection.
Yes.
So he's basically untrained green dog. We purchased him and we're giving him training.
No, he was trained by the seller, so we're paying him for the
We're paying for a
purchase and the
trained
training.
dog.
Yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Great. Mayor
Yeah,
Pro
I
Tem?
had questions on page 12, where it talks, check number 142613, coastline equipment. And it has, did we buy a backhoe?
Yes, let me see. It's gonna look to Public Works for a little more detail, so I can bring that back. But I believe this was the backhoe that was approved in the budget. And
So it just came up.
yeah, and this is the purchase, and then the reason it shows up as, it looks like several backhoes, but it's just one. It's just the costs were allocated out to the different departments that are gonna use the backhoe.
Okay, yeah, because there was, all the charges,
They add up.
I had to,
Yeah.
didn't understand it. Then I have a question on page 18.
Yeah, and on that one too, I'll send an email. I'll talk to Public Works and send out a little more detail on that item that was purchased. But go ahead.
So on page 18, I've talked about this once, and I want some clarity on this, because we're doing this every quarter, or every time we're doing the platinum towing. Can we get a description, maybe a report to you on each, what's the status of these things? Because we should keep track of this.
Yeah, we can do that. We can provide more detail, and just for maybe the public and everybody aware of what we're talking about. We had talked about this a couple months back, that the police department has to tow and store the vehicles that are associated with crimes that are under investigation. And unfortunately, because it is frustrating, the answer is some of those have been for years, and we have to keep storing them safely and secured so as not to jeopardize a future investigation, of a open case, a cold case. So it is frustrating, but I'll get some additional information on what those vehicles are and what we can disclose about those.
Yeah,
But
well, yeah, just at least an update to you, and then
yeah.
you can sanitize it. Other than that, those are the questions I had.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
And I will just note, I think even I've talked about it with our police department, and I think none of us are thrilled with that situation, that we have to continue to pay for a crime that, and our taxpayers have to continue to pay for a crime that occurred many years ago. So those are frustrating ones, and hopefully we get to, if we solve them, then we can eventually dispose of those. So.
So my question is, as policymakers for the city, what can we do? Nothing?
No, theoretically, yeah, there's not much, because the choice would be to basically
Jeopardize an
jeopardize the
investigation.
investigation, which is not something that generally should be done.
So is there an agency that we could report to and say, hey, just an FYI, if we're gonna start tracking it, maybe we could codify it at the end of the year and say, hey, this is how much it's costing us, but I don't think that's gonna speed up the process.
Right. Yeah, and I think what we'll plan to do is a summary of what we have and the yearly costs associated with it. But I think to answer the question is, we're not planning to take, there's no action associated with it.
But could we share that information with somebody that might look for a better way, or?
I'll follow up with the police department and talk that through. So.
Yeah, because I just can't imagine that you're in court one day and you're gonna roll in a 1984 Nissan. No, there it is. Right, you're gonna show pictures, so I think that maybe it's something that we could encourage others to get with the times.
Right,
Yeah,
thank you.
maybe consider changing the process.
If there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and have a motion and a second on item number 2.
Move to approve item 2.
Second.
Great. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, please take roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to item number 5. Madam Clerk, do you have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. Will staff please present the report?
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to introduce our building official, Tom Juzwiak. You may recall we spoke about this item at its first reading, at its introduction earlier this year, that this is the cyclical I think it's every 3-year building code update to adopt California building standards. And so we're here for the second reading and adoption of that. And so I'll ask our building official just to give a little bit of background since we had talked about it previously.
Thanks, James. Good evening. Tonight before you is the second reading of an ordinance to adopt the 2025 California Building Code. Every 3 years, the model codes are updated, and California Health and Safety Code requires jurisdictions to enforce the latest editions of various standards. Before these codes can take effect on January 1st, local jurisdictions need to re-adopt their amendments or the current amendments go away. Just as a reminder, this year is a little special. With the approval of Assembly Bill 130, State of California has prohibited cities from considering, approving, or adopting any proposed building standards affecting residential units unless certain conditions are met. This is in effect from October 1st of this year to June 1st of 2031. Therefore, there are no proposed new amendments from the last code cycle. Staff recommends council open the public hearing and close the public hearing and consider the evidence, adopt by title only, and waive further reading of the ordinance. I'm available for questions.
Are there any questions?
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry, your mic's off.
If there are no questions, we will open the public hearing. It is now 7:02. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
Great, thank you. Then we will now close the public hearing. The time is now 7:02. And we have before us a recommendation to adopt by title only and waive further reading of the ordinance entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, amending Article 8, Building Regulations of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code, incorporating the California Building Standards Code by reference as follows. 1, California Building Code, CBC, with appendices C, G, I, and J, California Residential Building Code, CRC, with Appendix B, as in Bravo, F, as in Frank, and California Green Building Standards Code, CGB, SC 2025 edition. Number 2, bear with me. Number 2, California Electrical Code, 2025 edition. Number 3, California Plumbing Code, 2025 edition. Number 4, California Mechanical Code, 2025 edition. Number 5, California Administrative Code, 2025 edition. Number 6, California Energy Code, 2025 edition. Number 7, California Existing Building Code, 2025 edition. Number 8, California Wildland Urban Interface Code, 2025 edition. Number 9, International Property Maintenance Code, 2024 edition. Number 10, International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, 2024 edition. Number 10, Gypsum Association Fire Resistive Design Manual, 23rd edition, GA-600-2024, and making miscellaneous revisions to Article 8, Building Regulations, to provide consistency with the California Building Standards Code, and number 2, find the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved?
Second?
Great. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, Madam Clerk, please take roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Perez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Yes.
Mayor McQueen LaJean.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. We'll move to item number 6, I'm sorry.
I was just telling.
Oh, thank you for your. Number 6, consider introduction of an ordinance adding Chapter 10 to the Article 5 of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code regulating short-term rentals. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Will staff please present the report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We originally scheduled this public hearing for last meeting, and we continued it to this meeting to make sure we had a full council to consider it. It's an important item. We gave a presentation and accepted some public comment. Tonight, I'll try to highlight some of the key things, maybe not get quite into as much detail as last meeting, but we'll highlight some of those key things, including some of the public comments that we got that council can consider. And so just as some background, we started this process back in October of 2024 when the city began receiving short-term rental complaints from the community. In January of 25, the council directed staff to explore regulatory options. In February of 25, we came back to council with the overview of options. Council directed staff at that time to conduct community engagement. So over the summer, we performed an online survey that received a couple hundred responses, and then we hosted a community forum to discuss the results from that survey and hear additional feedback from the community that was well attended here in council chambers. Following that process, we brought the feedback from both of those, both the survey and the community forum, back to the council in August of 25. The council received that and directed staff to draft an ordinance that focused on developing and adopting good neighbor standards and density restrictions, with those kind of being the key concerns. And we'll talk a little bit about what those good neighbor standards are. But so that was the direction, and so now we returned to council for public hearing on an ordinance. On the 3rd, we opened the public hearing, continued it tonight, to tonight. We received public testimony, and the next slide here shows some of the questions or feedback we got at that public hearing. In general, actually, let me come back to this. I think we'll start with what's in the ordinance, and then we'll talk about the feedback we got the last meeting. So the proposed ordinance is intended to be a balanced approach. When we say balanced, it's not the most restrictive approach that's ever been adopted. It doesn't completely ban short-term rentals. It just creates a permitting process for short-term rentals, and then operating standards and requirements, and a couple additional things. But the intent isn't necessarily to outright stop short-term rentals. The intent is to basically make sure that residents who live next to them, that are impacted by them, have a voice and can communicate concerns to the property owner and then ultimately to the city as needed. And so that's what we call the balanced approach to short-term rentals. The proposed ordinance does so by creating that permitting system for short-term rentals. It establishes operating standards, and a key element is it requires a local contact who's able to ensure that those operating standards are being met. It implements, as drafted, it implements a spacing requirement and a 10% citywide cap. Some of the feedback we got at the last meeting focused on that, so we'll talk about that in a moment. The proposed ordinance also makes sure that short-term rentals are also tracking transient occupancy tax or hotel tax, and that there's enforcement tools in the ordinance to enforce if there's issues. And then we talked a lot about the Coastal Commission having to review a potential short-term rental ordinance, and so this ordinance includes the elements that should be required for Coastal Commission to approve the ordinance, which would then make it enforceable. And so some of the feedback we heard when we presented at the last meeting was questions about one of the requirements was the exterior signage requirement. We received a comment from the public that that there was concern about people being able to identify short-term rentals, or potentially could tell if a property is vacant and could be robbed, or something along those lines. So so we did look, and several cities have the exterior signage on display requirement at all times, including, I believe, Oxnard actually has that requirement. It's a question of if you've seen it, maybe it's not enforced, but that requirement, it does exist, so it's not something that is unheard of or that has been removed from other cities' ordinances. But we identified two alternative options that the council could consider if they chose to change that process, and one would be instead of, I don't see it here, but the alternative would be just requiring the signage to be displayed when the rental is actually being rented, and that way, if somebody sees it, it's not that it's vacant, it's actually that somebody's there renting the property. So that's a simple switch. The second would be just requiring, what some agencies have done is they just require that the property owner notify all neighbors within let's say, 1,000 feet that they operate a short-term rental, and if there is any problem that the neighbors could call them and that they'll respond. That's a little bit more of a challenge for us in enforcing, because you could imagine a situation where maybe the person told one neighbor, but not, maybe let's say one member of a family, but not the other members of the family. And then the day that there's an incident, the other member of the family isn't there. And then how would they, know who to call? How would they know how to get a hold of anybody? So I think our recommendation was to consider at least, it could be a slight modification to require the exterior signage on display when it is in use as a short-term rental at the property. So that's the exterior signage item that was discussed. There was a request to clarify whether it was 30 days or 30 nights, or, to be clear about that. So we proposed, I believe in the ordinance, we proposed some language to clarify that it's 30 days or 29 nights. So it's not 30 days or 30 nights. So we included that. And then for the parking requirement clarification, we received comments about really one of the intents of the good neighbor requirements is to make sure that property owners are managing the property as best as they can to make sure that it's not impacting the neighbors negatively. You can operate a short-term rental if you make sure that you're not impacting your neighbors negatively. And so the question we got was, if my garage is full, but I have a big driveway and I have more than enough parking spaces on my property, would that be okay? Because the first draft of the ordinance said that you had to have spaces available in your garage. And so we looked at that, and the intent is really just to make sure that the short-term rental is not taking up all the street parking. So we do think that changing that to say garages or the minimum number of spaces required in either the garages or the driveways shall be made available, rather than just saying in the garages. Because if they have a big driveway and they have the 3 or 4 spaces that are, maybe required if it's a 4-bedroom house, for example, then that could address the issue. So because the ordinance was continued from the prior meeting, we just rolled everything over to tonight, but we wanted to highlight those because those could be simple modifications that could be included in the ordinance and introduced with the ordinance. So I went through these last meeting, and I'll just touch on, I'm not going to go through item by item or detailed, but I'll just touch on the key points. As we mentioned, that the ordinance includes a permitting system, good neighbor standards such as quiet hours, trash guidelines, parking guidelines, maximum number of occupants guidelines, the things that could potentially cause impacts to neighbors. That's what we're trying to address. It includes a nuisance response plan requirement and a complaint response plan requirement, where the operator would have to submit to the city as part of their permit how they're going to address any issues. And then that posting and contact information we discussed, although we noted the potential little change that could be made to address the concern there. And then the parking requirements we already discussed, separation requirements. That's probably the last key thing, because we got, forgot to mention that, we had some public comments last meeting, where right now the ordinance has the cap, a 10% cap on total number of short-term rental units, cannot exceed 10% of the city's total housing units. We mentioned the last meeting that the city has about 8,300 housing units, so that means a 10% cap is essentially a cap of 830 short-term rentals, which is far more than we actually have right now. So it stops it from getting out of hand, but it's still much higher than what we currently have. So we talked about the separation requirements. And one thing we've seen in other cities, and that we one question will be if the Coastal Commission will approve it, but what we've seen in other cities is they'll have a separation requirement of 100 feet in R2 and R3 residential zones, the more 100 feet in the sort of the single family, and then 200 horizontal feet in the R1 zone. And what that essentially does is means that there can't be an oversaturation of short-term rentals all in one, for example, one condo building couldn't have, couldn't all be short-term rentals. There would have to be the minimum distance between the units that could be used as short-term rentals. So it's another tool to minimize that oversaturation. We noted that the Coastal Commission approves the 10% cap. They've approved that in multiple other cities. The separation requirement, we're not sure if the Coastal Commission would approve it. So it's sort of a question mark. So it's just a choice for council. I think if we move forward at this time just to get rules on the books and be able to enforce it, and we want it to take effect and not be vetoed by the Coastal Commission, the cap may be the way to go. If we want to be more aggressive, but the risk is the Coastal Commission may reject it and it won't be enforceable and we'd have to come back. But we could try for the more aggressive separation requirement. So that's just something to consider. I think we did get feedback though with some potential concerns about the separation requirement because it is just a more aggressive approach. And then we already mentioned the TOT compliance and the enforcement policies are included in the ordinance. And then I won't get too into the weeds on this, but because we've talked about it a few meetings, but the, like we said, Coastal Commission has to approve before we can enforce, particularly as it relates to the addresses that are in the coastal zone, which is, this is the zoning map. The coastal zone is a bigger chunk of the city than you may think because it even wraps around over to sort of that Mandalay Village area because of the ocean going along the coast there. So it's a big chunk of the city that's within the coastal zone. This map was intended to show the zoning to show which properties were the R1 and the R2 and the R3 where the separation requirement would take effect. It's the yellow, orange, and brown colored properties on these maps. So the purple is not an area it would take effect. Purple is just military base. Yeah. Yeah. So it's I don't know if this pointer will work. So like this color and then these colors and some of these. Well, the pointer's not exactly working, but.
Why is there diagonal lines on the right side of Ventura Road?
Let's see.
NIO.
Yeah, it's NIO. I don't, trying to think of what that is. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Not in operation.
Yeah.
No, there's homes there.
Yeah, but we recommended removing the spacing requirement at the last meeting based on the fact that we don't know that the Coastal Commission will approve it. So I had intended to include the coastal zone map and not the zoning map, because if the separation requirement's not in the ordinance, then we don't have to worry about the zoning map. But if we want to talk about the separation requirement, we can get more detail on the zoning map.
It's wrong.
It's not wrong, it's just coded to mean something not relevant to this conversation.
Well, it appears that it's, because I understand the Navy housing being lined out, but it doesn't make sense that that little corner on Ventura to Pleasant.
NIO stands for Neighborhood Infill Overlay.
That's right, yeah. So that's that, where we did the overlay to try to encourage additional density in those areas.
So that's subject to approval by the Coastal Commission as well?
Well,
'Cause it,
I believe so, but I believe it's already been submitted to Coastal Commission, but that doesn't relate to short-term rentals in any way. It's just the underlying zoning is still applicable. So
Okay,
the
so then-
orange color are the ones that would have the spacing
can you
requirement.
put the red dot to the right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is available for short-term rentals.
Right now, any residential property is available for short-term rentals without any rules.
This is a short-term, so do you have another map that, or you just have the zoning map?
So this is only for the spacing requirement. So if we want to talk about the spacing requirement, then we could get into more detail on this. But it doesn't, this doesn't relate to the ordinance other than that spacing requirement.
All right, so we,
I have a question when he's
I have a
done.
number.
When he's done.
Yeah, when he's done.
Yeah, so my suggestion at this point is the first question, before we look at zoning of individual properties, would just be, do we want to have a spacing requirement? And if the answer is no, then we don't have to get into the zoning map, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, and I think that was what, I know we didn't vote, but the discussion at the last meeting was sort of headed that way. So I would say, let's not get bogged down in the zoning map at this point.
Done? All right, any questions? Let's go to Mayor Pro Tem first, and we'll come to Councilmember Hernandez.
So I think we do need the spacing requirement, just in the, it'll protect high-density areas where, one HOA can be inundated with STRs, and they're gonna lose their feel of their neighborhood. So I like the spacing requirements, one. I'm still stuck with section 4664, the proposed annual permit fee. I'm okay with the initial $9.95, but I view this, I think this is excessive for annual renewals. I think we should lower that to $500 after initial permitting. Just my opinion. So second year and beyond, I think we should just go with the flat $500 rate. You answered my density question. And then enforcement, section 5671. This ordinance basically allows for permit revocation after 3 verified violations within a 24-month period. Who's going to be the arbiter for what is first strike, second strike? Do we have what the fines are going to be? Has that been hammered out?
It's been hammered out. I think the answer to this question applies to both this and the fees conversation, which is the ordinance creates initial fees and the code has standard penalties, but the ordinance also, in that section regarding fees, actually says that the city can amend the fees by resolution as necessary to recover costs associated with the program. So we have to create a fee, but the city has the ability to review after 6 months, 9 months, a year, and say, is it working? Is it taking more work, less work, and adjust those things. So that's why, for now, we just recommend adopting with the existing fee and the existing penalties that are in the code. And then as we start to see how it goes, we'll know if we need to charge more or less, or if it takes more time than we thought it would or less time than we thought it would.
I guess okay, let me back up to the violation. Who's gonna say that's your first violation? Like, how are we going to assess that?
It'll be, we'll have a staff person assigned to overseeing the process, who is also gonna be the person who reviews the permits and remember, they're gonna have to propose a nuisance response plan, a complaint response plan, and then we will then have that person will be assigned to making sure when we get a complaint that they have done everything that they said they would do. And then if not, then it's gonna be a violation.
Because the city doesn't have a noise, we don't have a noise abatement rule, right?
We have a noise ordinance.
We have a standard noise ordinance that has a standard decibel limit that should not be exceeded.
Okay. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Councilmember?
Yeah,
Renee?
thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager, for the report. I had a question about the signage. Where exactly is it envisioned the sign would go, indicating that this unit is a short-term rental?
Yeah,
Does this go on the front door, or,
the,
Can you?
oh, sorry.
yeah, the approach that we have seen, and I will just point out, we've looked at other agencies that had gotten their ordinances approved by the Coastal Commission, and then we sort of tried to take what would work from those. So there are many agencies, I know there was like some concern that like the signage idea couldn't work, but this was actually taken from, there's many agencies that already do this.
Right.
And so the way it's envisioned is that they would essentially just have to put visible on the front of their house, and, you know, can be, you know, at their, just visible from the front of their house, and it has to clearly identify who would be contacted in the event of a problem, a violation of one of the rules.
So not being here at the last meeting, was there any concern about that being a deterrent for people who are staying in the short-term rental? My experience with short-term rentals, especially my conference last year in Long Beach when I rented an Airbnb, everybody knew that unit that I rented was an Airbnb. I walked in, they go, "Oh, are you looking for the Airbnb?" And that made me feel extremely uncomfortable. I didn't stay in it, not staying there, because it was just, I didn't want people knowing that I was, you know, out of town, staying at an Airbnb. So that would be a concern for me, but did you hear any
The concern,
comments about deterring?
yeah, the concern,
Well-
we didn't hear that concern. We heard a concern that the thought was if there's signage up, then people could identify that it's a short-term rental and potentially target the house for, you know, doing something they shouldn't do. And so that was why we had proposed, you know, the tweak could be just requiring it to be displayed when it's in use as a rental, so that way there's not the concern about an empty house, you know, that can be easily identified. So that was the concern we heard. We didn't hear the concern from, you know, the concern we heard was more from the owner perspective than the tenant perspective, so we haven't heard that one yet. So.
All right. Okay, I have another question about the nuisance response plan. That is going to be reviewed by somebody in planning, I imagine? Okay, and at what point, where do the HOAs come into play here, or the property managers? What's their role in responding to a nuisance?
So our ordinance would give the city the ability to enforce for issues that we can't currently enforce on, but they don't, it doesn't give the HOA can still continue to do whatever they can do now, and they'd still be able to continue that once it's adopted, but it doesn't necessarily give the HOA any additional powers. You know, we talked about it in the longer presentation, but, and I think the council recalls, but if the HOA had adopted a short-term rental prohibition prior to a certain date, I think it was 1977, then they can enforce that. And then once we do all this, they could still enforce that. an applicant would still have to get permission from the HOA. They just have to also get permission from the city and get a permit from the city. But if the HOA can't enforce anything because they didn't have that on the books and they're not allowed to enforce it by coastal commission, then they still wouldn't really be able to enforce anything, but they would be able to share the information with their residents to be able to report issues to the city, and the city would be able to do something about it. So that's really it.
I'm just more concerned too about them being kept in the loop.
Mm.
If something goes on, my HOA has a number that we can call,
Mhm.
which connects us to the property management company. So I'm just, if you got a response from the city or a complaint coming to the city, at what point are you gonna wrap in the HOA or the property management company so that they know what's going on, or is that an issue at all?
It's not something we were looking to do. Trying to think if we'd be able
Or maybe
to
they
do
just would
that.
get copies, would they get copies of the nuisance plan?
I mean, I think,
Nuisance response plan?
to me, the simple answer is if the HOA called us and said, we're having issues with this property, do you have a record of them operating a short-term rental? We'd be able to answer yes.
Okay.
And then they can kind of resolve whatever they need to resolve, but it doesn't stop them from doing what they're doing, but also it's our permit process, so it doesn't necessarily, they aren't necessarily interconnected.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And then I really am pleased to see that HDL will be monitoring the STRs. When I attended the report on state of the region, our collection of revenue from transit occupancy tax is we are the lowest in the county, below $1 million.
Yeah.
So if that helps us raise our TOT, I hope it does.
Yeah.
If STR can monitor it and then help us enforce,
Mhm.
I think that would be really good. Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Perez.
Yes, thank you. So some of these questions that we're still debating, for instance, the signage and the spacing, have we spoken to or heard from the resident experts on this who actually manage short-term rentals? I see one in the audience. I'm hoping she'll make a comment on this and weigh in on it. But I'd like to hear what works, what they find that has worked versus what hasn't worked, and maybe we could get a little more info that way.
That's the council's.
Yes.
So imagine, are you done? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I imagine that when Section 8 was first established, that there was many of these conversations like, oh, it's going to be out of hand, and Section 8, it's going to be crazy. And I know that the city has 8 Section 8 apartments right next to each other. There's no separation. And so I feel like, as I'm hearing this, that, there shouldn't be any difference whether it's a rental property or a short-term rental. If the police are called, the police are called. And they're called not because there's a short-term rental, not because it's a Section 8 rental. They're called because there's a disturbance, and then they come. So I don't understand the placard posting. I would hope that we could perhaps have a little QR code that would alert the police that this is a short-term rental, because frankly, it's nobody else's business, just like Section 8 is nobody else's business. And I imagine in my neighborhood, I had 2 houses that the owner bought them when they were brand new, and he rented them out for 40 years. And there's issues that come up sometimes. But again, responsible property owners, landlords, they do a good job of managing the properties, and so I suspect the same thing would be the case here. On the parking requirements, some of the Surfsides that have 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms only have 1 designated parking spot. So that could be a problem in the area. asking, so it's the same problem that a renter, a landlord would face, like when you rent to if you have a 3-bedroom Surfside 4 and you rent it to a family of 5 and there's 2 cars, then your teenager kid gets a car, there's a parking problem and there's limited parking spaces. So I just feel like that we just need to be open to some of those minor little problems that are going to come. But ultimately, if there's responsible management, then just like with Section 8 and people that rent out properties, when there's a disturbance, you call the police. You don't call the police because it's Section 8, or you don't call the police because it's a short-term rental. You call the police because there's a disturbance. So I think the posting should be minimally detectable to anybody who doesn't have any business there. And if the police are called, I think there should be a way to let the police know, because I don't understand the purpose of the posting. I don't get it. Like, do we require people to post that, well, hey, I'm going to rent Section 8? No, we don't do that. The city doesn't do that.
It's for the neighbors to,
The city doesn't do that with Section 8.
but in the STR itself, it's almost a self-governance.
Yeah, the
Same
intent
thing with-
is, the intent is they're running the property as a business, essentially, right? And
So
you
is
live next-
a landlord who
and you
rents
live-
his property out.
And you live next to it, and you're asking the city to help craft rules that stop people from coming and taking all the parking.
Is a placard on the window going to stop somebody from causing a disturbance?
When they call the owner and the owner is required by ordinance to respond within 30 minutes, they better, or else they lose their permit. That's.
But again, if there's a disturbance that the city's concerned about, wouldn't you call the police?
So I think the way it's structured, it's with the thought that should that person be using taxpayer resources to manage their property by having a very expensive police officer respond?
How do we respond to
to
Section
ensure-
8 complaints?
Or should the property owner who's making profit off of renting that property manage their property?
Right, but again, private owners do Section 8 in the city. We see the disbursements every month. And I know some of these people, and so to me, it's kind of like, it's the same thing. Until you have a bad tenant or a bad disturbance or a bad situation, someone's going to call the police. I don't want, if there's like a big party, you call the police and the police come in and the police are, oh, this is a short-term rental, then trigger a notification to the.
Yeah, but if you.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Can I-
So.
I got one more.
Yeah, so if we can ask questions or make specific comments, not a debate about what we feel or what we don't feel, because it sounds like we're just going round and round and round with the same conversation. So are there
But you went
questions?
round and round until you got to us, so we're all getting a shot at it.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant,
Okay.
we're talking about what you agree with, what you don't agree with.
Well,
Is there any
I'll could,
specific- So the reason I'm saying this is because we're in a hearing, so right now, it's really about asking questions and getting clarification so that we can hear public comments.
okay, so my question is, we don't have any special requirements when it comes to Section 8 in terms of notifying, correct?
In terms of notifying, there
The
are
neighbors.
special requirements for Section 8. The property owner, we do not have a requirement that neighbors contact the property owner for Section 8 issues.
Okay, so that's, I believe that maybe the public my question is, could we do away with? I want the police if the police are called, I want the police to be able to quickly identify, oh, this is a short-term rental. I don't know if it changes anything. I mean, but anyways. The other thing,
Questions, please.
our other two comments, they didn't ask questions. They told us why they didn't like the separation agreement, and I didn't hear you interrupt them. So I think the separation agreement is also not necessary for the same reasons. And so I would like to see it removed.
Okay, we'll come back around to comments, but we're going to move to the next step of our public hearing. So we are going to open the public hearing for comments. The time is now 7:40. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
Yes, and I just wanted to note for the record that the written comment received was for this item. Our first public comment in person is from Paul Quigley. David Scrivener, you'll be after Mr. Quigley.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak once again. Paul Quigley, Port Hueneme homeowner. I wanted to express my appreciation for the meaningful discussion and for considering many of the important concerns that we've had in my organization, strfreedom.org, particularly with flexibility on the parking, not mandating garages, the discussion on trying to minimize the impact of signage on homes from an aesthetic perspective, and also the potential for vandalism. Those are important. There's another element in the operating standards as well as it relates to the signage, particularly the rules. And I would urge the council to take a look at the verbiage on the signs themselves. What are you trying to achieve with the signs? Who are we trying to notify? Do we have to put the house rules on the signs? I don't know. I'm not sure what that achieves. And then one other aspect of the operating standards is in paragraph G. It talks to short-term rentals having a minimum stay required of at least one consecutive night. I think we should clear up that verbiage a little bit. It could be confused. Are we talking one night, or are we talking more than one night when we say consecutive? I think that's the question. And then finally, I would take another look at the renewal process. Maybe the responsible operators can establish a track record and qualify for, instead of an annual renewal, maybe a 2 to 3 year renewal, depending on their track record in terms of being responsible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scrivener? Jan Burke, you'll be next.
Sorry, my leg went to sleep. Good evening. Short-term rentals have pros and cons. On one hand, they promise to increase revenue to the city and local businesses, provide income stream for their owners, and allow people to visit the area and enjoy our beautiful city. On the other hand, they negatively affect neighborhood cohesion, exacerbate residential parking problems, push up rents, and worsen the housing crisis. Every STR that comes online means one less home in Hueneme. One of the major reasons for adopting a short-term rental ordinance was on display last council meeting. During the public comment section, an owner of a short-term rental in Hueneme openly stated that a significant part of his business would be renting out his home for large gatherings. His position was that since short-term rental is a single-family residential neighborhood, his business should not be constrained by occupancy limits. In essence, he's asking the council to allow commercial enterprises to operate in a residential neighborhood. What could go wrong? Most neighborhoods in Hueneme are already affected by scarcity of street parking. Large gatherings equal lots of cars. Allowing large gatherings will create parking issues for several blocks around such a STR. If the owner wants to provide revenue for large gatherings, he should purchase a property in an area that's zoned for it. I urge the council to retain the occupancy limits and visitor limits proposed in the preliminary draft of the ordinance. Without stiff penalties operating unregistered STRs, some owners will ignore the requirement and to register their units with the city and will not pay the associated taxes or comply with the good neighbor requirements. If the penalties are low, non-compliant owners will consider them a cost of doing business and continue to illegally operate their businesses with impunity. The ordinance should mandate a substantial initial fine for noncompliance and follow-up fines with fines that escalate if violations continue. In such cases, the city attorney should be authorized to issue cease and desist orders and bill the offenders for attorney fees and court costs. Additionally, scofflaws who refuse to pay the appropriate taxes should be required to reimburse the city for unpaid taxes. Lastly, given the position of the California Coastal Commission, many HOAs in the coastal zone cannot enforce the CC&Rs that forbid STRs in their complexes. However, this is not the case for HOAs that predate the formation of the Coastal Commission in 1977. It is my understanding that several complexes located in the coastal zone are exempt. These include Surfside 1, Surfside 2, Surfside 3, Hueneme Bay.
You can finish your statement, your sentence.
Okay, thank you. And Anacapa View condominiums. There may be others. The owners of these complexes should be able to decide what's best for their communities. I would request that the council require the approval of these HOAs as a condition for issuing short-term rental permits.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Jan Burke. Then it'll be Don Durazo, then Tony De La Torre.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council, staff, neighbors. Last time, I was here last time for the meeting when we had the discussion, and I encourage you to continue to go down this path. We had a meeting at the HOA Coalition a couple weeks ago, and we had a pretty robust discussion, and I think that what we came away with is we want to see a fair and balanced approach to the short-term rental program. We as HOAs, as David mentioned, that it's almost virtually impossible for us to do enforcement because of the California laws with HOAs these days. And so we need the support and a consistent program for all of our HOAs and all of the homes so that there's we all know what the rules are. We all know what the rules of engagement are so that we can get to a better place so that we can have a good experience with short-term rentals. We don't have too many in our HOA at the Anacapa View Beach Homes. We are not exempt, but even Surfside 3, which is exempt, as David mentioned, they still have quite a few short-term rentals, and they have a hard time managing those. So we do need a balanced approach. I think that what staff has come up with is a good start, and I agree that maybe if we launch and engage in this process now, perhaps we may have to amend it or make some changes down the road as we see fit for our city. I know we're a unique location, and we're not a high-demand location for short-term rentals because we are off the beaten path, and we like that about it. But I don't foresee us ever having 838 short-term rentals in this community. I think it's always going to be a little bit of a quiet community. I'm not too concerned. I don't think we're too concerned about the distance at this time, but then that could change. But I think that if we can start somewhere and get something in place, it would really help if we could have something in place potentially for next summer. So thank you.
Thank you.
Don Durazo.
Good evening, City Council. So I had something to say, but in light of the questions that were asked before, I want to answer those questions. As far as the signage and putting it out in front of the properties, doesn't serve the purpose that it's intended to serve, because you're having it at the front door. A neighbor is not, if there's a problem, a neighbor is not going to come to the front door of the house to look at that information. They are going to call the police. So what I proposed at the last meeting is that we did a postcard to the surrounding area that has that information, and other agencies do that. So it says, this is a short-term rental now, here is the permit number, here is the contact information. Whether that household keeps that or not, that's up to them, but at least they know it's there. They also can look on different websites for the rules and that kind of stuff, because it's advertised. It's advertised on Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com. So they can, if they know the address, they can look it up and they can get that contact information there as well. So the signage, I get what you're trying to get at. It's not going to work. If you wanted it when the police came, you could require that information to be posted inside the home. So as they walk right into that front door, they can see it right there, and that could tell anybody who's doing a call, a policeman going in, there it is, and then they can call the people. So I don't know if that clears something up. What else was there? The HOA thing. So when you have a short-term rental in an HOA, you have to register your tenant. And so the HOA does know who to contact there. So if there's a problem, a consistent problem, the HOA can call you guys, and then that permit can be revoked, or however you want to do it. So the HOA does have to take some of that responsibility in making sure that those tenants are registered and having that information, so they know who's coming in and out of that facility. And I don't think that the density in an HOA really would be an issue. And a lot of the HOAs go 30 days. They do monthlies. So you're not having the turnover of nightly rentals in an HOA, typically. What were some of the other, sorry, I'm jumping all around because I just wrote notes as you guys were talking. Renewal fees. I think, speaking on owners, if they...
Go ahead and finish.
Okay. If they knew what they were getting, I think owners would be a little more open to whatever fee you implemented. The county, we get inspected every single year. So an inspector from the county comes out for county unincorporated and does a full inspection of the property every single year as part of the renewal fee. So you feel like, okay, because I'm a property manager, so my owners know that I'm taking care of the property, that the smoke detectors are working, the water heater is fine, the electrical is good, the panels, all those safety issues that help them, they know that they're getting that. Other agencies don't do that, so you're just, I'm paying my TOT that should offset the program, and so why am I paying this renewal fee? So that's a little frustrating to them. So thank you for seeing about the renewal fees, because it's done.
Great, thank you.
There's more of it.
Tony De La Torre?
Good evening, council members, Mayor. My name is Tony De La Torre. I've been a landlord for the last 25 years. This is my first short-term rental that I've started, and I've heard a lot of no one's call it negative feedback that I'm hearing from people who, no offense, don't have the experience as a landlord with a short-term, long-term rental. I would assume now. I'm not saying that none of you have own other properties other than your primary residences, but I feel like I think we shouldn't be too quick to jump to the negative conclusion of these could be, issues in the, for our citizens, our residents of this community, as far as the negative, having to call the police on a disturbance call or some sort of other type of, nuisance in the neighborhood, because I'm sure, as we all agree as short-term landlords, there's quite a bit of incentive to be good tenants, clients, whatever, renters, as far as the short-term rentals go, as you know, on Airbnb for specifically to name that particular website. You have reviews that you do for each tenant that comes across your property, and you can actually check that as a sort of a screening process, I would call it. You look to see how their previous reviews, if they have a low review rating, like if they've basically had issues with other properties, well, for me, I wouldn't be willing to rent to that particular potential renter. So I just feel like maybe we should be a little bit more, give us a chance in a sense to see how it works. You know, we're a very small percentage of the community. I think it's less than 1%. So I don't really know if it's warranted yet for us to have the signage and all those types of things like Mrs. I'm sorry, what's her name? Yeah, like you had mentioned, like it make you feel uncomfortable, right? As far as going to an Airbnb and everybody knows you're the Airbnb renter or client. So I think that's a little bit of an invasive type approach, maybe. I don't know. Maybe a case by case thing. Somebody has had multiple issues with loud parties, as this gentleman stated. We don't want any of that. It's in our bylaws. I'm pretty sure all of us are the same. No loud parties, no large gatherings of any kind. I mean, we understand we're not in a commercial zoned area. It's residential, so we try to be very respectful and considerate to our neighbors. Like I said before, I'm a 24-year experienced landlord, and this is my first Airbnb. I've only done it for a little over a year. I'm not gonna lie, it's more lucrative. I mean, to be honest, but again, give us a chance to see how things go before we jump to some sort of a conclusion or some sort of a guideline or ordinance that could be negative for us. I mean, we're barely making it, most of us. We're not big corporations. We're the small guys, you know, just trying to get by. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no more speaker cards.
No
Mayor.
more speakers? Okay. All right, so I will now close the public hearing. The time is now 7:57. We have before us a recommendation to introduce the first reading by title only, waiving further reading of an ordinance entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, Chapter 10 to Article 5 of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code regulating short-term rentals, and find the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA, and take such additional related actions that may be desirable. City Manager, would it be appropriate at this time to have a discussion about number 3? Or should we take a motion and then have a discussion? I think we should talk about that right now before we do a motion and a second, but I'm not positive.
I could make a motion to kick off a discussion. How's that?
Yeah, I think my suggestion would be, see if there's a motion to start the discussion, or
Okay.
that would allow us to start the discussion.
Go ahead, motion and a second.
I'd like to make a motion to take out the posting requirement
Let-
and the separation requirement.
I think we're gonna do a motion and a second to accept the recommendation so that we can further discuss. Is that what your comment was about?
No,
Okay.
so, I.
You're talking about number 3?
Allowing a motion,
Right,
yeah, a motion, on what would be introduced, and then there could be a discussion on what that motion, or on that motion at that time.
Okay.
So we can't discuss until we have a motion. Is that what you're saying?
No.
I think finish making your motion is my suggestion.
Yeah, so,
cut off.
which to me, we will be having multiple motions because we would have more than just Councilmember Gama's request. So that's kind of what I'm asking. So let's do this. Let's go through, and a motion will pass or it won't pass. So Councilmember Gama, you go with the one, whatever it is that you want to do, and then we'll see if that passes.
Sorry, Mayor, I'm getting your.
Sorry.
I'll make a motion to come back with the new ordinance, giving us alternatives. And I would like to see an alternative to remove or to rewrite the posting requirements. And I'd like to see the separation requirement removed. So my motion would be to table this for 2 more weeks, come back with the new ordinance, or giving us options, option 1 and option 2.
So I think for number 3, we're taking that right now. So if you have a motion, if you have a recommendation for whatever it is that you want to change in the ordinance, and then we're going to talk about that tonight. So that we
I'll
can.
tell you what,
Mayor, I
I'll
think,
withdraw my motion and allow you to make the motion. How's that?
Well, I was going to suggest, so instead of introducing the ordinance, which is what we had recommended, I think the motion was being made to not introduce the ordinance, but to provide direction to staff to bring a different ordinance back. So I do think it's responsive. It's just the motion is not to introduce the ordinance, essentially, right?
So, did we,
Yeah, why can't we just make a motion to amend a section?
that's kind of what I'm saying for number 3, where it says take such additional related action that may be desirable. So the question is, let's talk about what are those things that we are suggesting that there is a change, and let's introduce that now so that we can.
You said number 3, and so number 3.
I'm saying right here. So there's 3 recommendations. Number 3 is take such additional related action that may be desirable.
So what everybody else is looking at, that's a different number.
Yeah,
So that's
I'm looking at, I'm
is
looking
it?
at separation.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that. So number 3 for me is take such additional related action that may be desirable. So what is that? To not have posted signs and have something else?
So I can do a motion to approve staff recommendation, removing the postage requirement and the separation requirement.
Thank you, I'll second that.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
No.
Councilmember Perez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez,
No.
Mayor McQueen Lejeune.
Yes, the motion didn't go far enough, but I'll say yes.
Well, with
Would you like
your
to
yes,
amend?
the motion would pass with Councilmembers Hernandez and Mayor Pro Tem Lopez voting no.
Yeah, so comment is, there was no alternative. It's just to remove the sign.
Well, no, and the space requirement, that's the concern I had.
But we're not finished yet, because that was one item, and we should hear from everyone.
That's what we just voted on.
No, she said that remove the,
Sign
The separation
requirement
density cap.
and the separation.
And the separation. of
okay, I
density.
didn't even hear the separation
see.
density. So that's what I'm saying, it didn't go far enough, and do what? So when you say remove the signage and replace it with nothing?
Well, that's where discussion came in, and you could have made a recommendation as to an alternative. Before we.
That's okay.
Before we finalize the motion, that's where discussion comes in. And other alternatives would have been suggested, and the motion could have been
Yeah,
amended.
I understand,
to
but I
include
didn't
that.
hear you say the second part. That's why I was
Okay.
a little concerned about.
And I would like an alternative to the posting to make it, in other words, what's the purpose? And then protect, let's just not have a big sign that says everyone, hey, there's the Airbnb.
Do you have an
What-
alternate suggestion?
I
Hold
don't.
on. If I may, Mayor, as of right now, you guys just voted to remove the posting.
Okay,
Correct.
hold on. Go right ahead.
I wanted to ask if, I don't know if I can do it, or if the person who made the
Exactly.
motion who did it can reconsider the vote.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, we can do a reconsideration.
Okay.
If you have.
So then I will redo my motion.
Hold on, just 1 second. I'd like to go to the attorney, because I know there's a caveat in there. If you voted in the affirmative,
Gotta
you
change it.
can rescind. That is correct. Okay,
Oh,
if you, so you had to be a voter in the affirmative.
Correct.
So,
So that I'm going to reconsider my motion. And I can restate.
no, you have to first do a vote to rescind.
So I'll do a vote to rescind my vote.
Yes.
No.
No, you have to do a vote to rescind the motion.
So I'll do a vote to rescind my motion.
I second to rescind. Are there any discussion? Madam Clerk, take a vote, and the vote is to rescind
Her
prior.
previous motion.
That's correct.
Okay. Councilmember Gama. Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Perez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Yes.
Mayor McQueen LaJean.
Yes.
Both motion passes unanimous.
Now you can move to the motion.
Okay, so I'll do a motion to consider staff recommendation amending the posting requirement and removing the separation requirement.
Second.
Hold on, she's not finished.
No, go ahead, because I want to hear other suggestions.
Amending, okay, great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yep. Is discussion?
Discussion.
So my concern is the coastal commission with the densities. What we're trying to do is send a framework that we know has passed and protect, smaller HOAs from being inundated with STRs. So if you're in a 12, 15 unit HOA, and basically every unit can be without the density cap, every unit can be rented. And if just think of you're the only non-HOA person in that the non-STR, and the only person in that HOA doesn't have an STR, you're not going to feel like that's your home.
I have a question about that. Is that the same, the separation, is that the same as the density cap, though? I don't think it's the same thing.
Well, it's separation and density cap.
I was just
Section
referring to the
5668,
separation.
5669.
So may I chime in here? So
Let's
Okay,
get an answer
okay.
to her question.
So let's stop really quick, because a lot's going on. So let me go back, Madam Clerk and Mr. Attorney. You made a motion, there was a second. Please take a vote, because we shouldn't be discussing until the vote is on the table.
we did.
No, we have to
did.
discuss.
Did we vote already?
Yes.
We did,
Okay.
we had a,
So
This
you
is
have
the
your own,
discussion part.
we had a motion, we had a second, but we didn't vote. We
That's
went
right.
right into
Yeah,
discussion.
we voted for the rescinding. Did you?
you voted for the rescinding, but if you vote now, you're approving the
Amendment.
the motion and the second. So I didn't know if that's your intention or if you wanted to
So,
discuss.
I'm really confused, so.
Sorry.
let me just get my
I want to
back
be able to
on track.
discuss.
So we did the rescission. We passed that. There's a motion,
Has a
and
second.
there's a second.
Now we're in discussion.
Discussion.
So my recommendation would be to have a discussion so you know what you're voting on.
Thank you.
And so my question to Mayor Pro Tem was, the density issue is not the same as the separation issue. I didn't mention anything about the density issue. My only comment was about the separation issue.
And I
Is
can
that the same?
answer, I can answer that question. So is both a separation requirement in the ordinance is drafted, and there is also a density cap.
Correct.
And so one could be removed and not the other, or both can be left in, but there are two separate.
Right, so I only mentioned the separation, and were you mentioning earlier that if we put in a separation requirement, I thought I heard you say that you were unsure whether the Coastal Commission would approve it.
Yeah, and to give the 30-second summary on that, the cap has been approved in many cities by the Coastal Commission of a 10% cap.
Right.
But the separation requirement, I believe that 2 cities have adopted ordinances having those like nearby cities, and they've submitted them, but the Coastal Commission hasn't approved them yet, and we don't know if they will.
Okay.
So So that's why we said that there's some risk with doing the separation.
So that is why I mentioned only separation, not the density portion.
Got it.
Right, and then my issue with the separation is renters, landlords, if they own 2 properties next to each other, they could rent both out. So I don't understand why and the reason why I feel this way is, let's just say I have a health issue and I could go care for a ailing family member somewhere, and I could use short-term rental. So I don't think if that situation came up and then I'm like, oh, my neighbor's already short-term, I can't do it. I don't think that's fair. Because same family health issue, if I have to move to Seattle to attend to a family member, I'm gonna rent my house out. And so, and if you go into some of the HOAs, the percentage of rentals are quite high in some instances. And that's why I brought up Section 8, is like, hey, you know, let's just, we should manage each property differently, and let's not have negative, I agree with the gentleman, you know, let's see how it goes. And if we have to come in stricter, then we could do that. But and then on the posting, this is part of the discussion, I hope it is.
Yes.
I just hope that on the posting that we could define the purpose. What's the purpose of posting? And is there an alternative? Do we require people that decide to rent their house out to do the same? No, everyone knows. This is the rental now. There's a for rent sign up there. And that's kind of the beauty about the short-term rentals, is that it's not done in the front of the house, it's done online. It's done through these wonderful websites that have ratings, and the responsible owner could be even more responsible by paying attention to who's coming and who's going. So I just feel like if we take the separation out and come up with a better posting, well, first of all, define the purpose of posting. What are we trying to accomplish? And for me, it'd be like making sure the police understand if they get called there, hey, this is a short-term rental. Doesn't change anything except that, hey, Mr. City Manager, we had another run-in with the short-term rental.
Okay, so the reason why I brought it up is because of the comments that were made of Councilmember Hernandez and the property managers, but I'd like to hear alternatives. I don't think we should have a 24-hour sign. I don't even necessarily like the sign while the renter is renting, but I would like to hear alternatives. Maybe one of the suggestions was on the inside or something else, but.
So can I comment?
Yes. Yeah.
So the reason for the signs in the STR, it's for self-regulation. The neighbors have to know who to call if they're gonna file a complaint. Again, we don't wanna over-inundate our police officers for a private corporation in reality. So there's a 30-mile radius that this person has to be back to tend to the complaint. So that's the reason why that there has to be a way to make contact with the owner of the STR. Do I have to go to Airbnb, look it up? What if the person doesn't know anything about, doesn't have any computer literacy? It would be easier just to have, a sign, or the alternative is they have, little notifications to the neighbors on who to contact. That's what it's for. It's for self-regulation and not inundate our police officers.
Well, I'm good with the neighbor contact, which you suggested, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and then the other thing was when you have rentals that are long-term, like say Councilmember Gama is saying, well, what if I want to rent my property out for a whole year? There's an establishment. The owner probably knows who the owner of the property is, and that's a long-term neighbor now. So you know who to contact. These are going to be different people every 2-3 days, and this is why we have the STR in the first place, is to develop a framework. Is it perfect? No, but you know, next year when this actually hits the ordinance and actually posted, we'll come back the following year and we'll figure out what worked and what didn't work. But I think the framework is good.
Okay.
I don't-
I have not had a
Councilman-
chance to comment, so if I could please. So on the posting of the signs, I was okay with it being posted while the unit was being occupied, but when I heard is it Durazo? Durazo speak about the postcard and then having the sign inside, I like that idea even better. But I think my desire would be to send that portion of this item back to staff to rework, to come up with a better plan for posting the sign based on what we heard here tonight. I don't know how who incurs the cost of sending postcards out, whose responsibility that would be. That would have to be figured out. But you have to come up to the podium, please.
So in other cities, when we apply for our STR permits, we have to also provide, within a certain amount of radius, the addresses. And we pay for, there's a charge for that, for the city to put the postcards out.
Okay.
It's just a lot more effective because nobody's going to look at the sign and they're not going to go to the door, especially they're not going to go up to the front door or the front of a house when there's already an issue. And if they did, I would fear that that would escalate the issue because now you're on the property of the person that you're having the problem with.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's on the signage. As far as the separation requirement, which I believe was part of your motion, okay. If you recall, one of the reasons that this was brought to our attention was the fear of corporations coming in and buying blocks of units. And then there being nobody to be held accountable if something goes wrong in one of those units because it's a big corporation and you don't have contact with a single owner like you might have if, otherwise. So I'm not opposed to the separation requirement. I think that was one of the purposes that we entered into this in the beginning, that people were concerned, especially in Surfside 3, that corporations were coming in and buying large blocks of units and using those as STRs. So I'm fine with the separation requirement. I would not vote to oppose that.
So Surfside 3 could decide, their HOA could decide, we're opting out. They don't have to, because they were built before 1976. But again, I like let's wait and see, because we're jumping to negative conclusions. And I don't think that's fair. And, like I said, I don't see this very differently than Section 8 renting or somebody who rents multiple units in the city of Port Hueneme. If there's a problem, you call the police. And I don't understand this. Well, I don't want to be burdening the police with, but if there's, so again, what kind of problems are we talking about? The guy smoked a cigarette or something? I don't know. What are we talking about? If we're talking about parties, loud, disruptive behavior, screeching cars, yeah, you're going to call the police regardless if it's a short-term rental, a long-term rental, or a owner. And, I had a motorcycle gang living next to me for a year and a half. And I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but it got a little bit out of hand. And so, anyways, that's it.
I just had one more comment I wanted to make on why I'm not supporting the elimination of the separation requirement, because I do not agree with your premise, Councilman Gama, that you can compare Section 8 housing to STRs. There's a clear difference, and I don't think we should take the time right now to discuss that, but that's another reason I wouldn't support that.
Yes, but people in HOAs
We're not
objected to having Section 8 units in their HOA.
different.
Well, but again, for negative reasons that, for the most part, never came to fruition.
Okay, Councilmember Perez?
No, I'm listening.
Okay, I have one more comment. So the reason why I believe that we call the owner of the Airbnb is the owner has the authority to remove the tenant if he breaks the rules. If he did something egregious that, that the police officer came, the guy obeyed and police officer left, and then there it goes again. You're gonna keep calling the cops back and forth when the owner can come in one swoop, say, hey, you guys are done. I don't want to take the risk of taking a strike, and I am gonna lower your rating on Airbnb or whatever.
Okay, so did you have anything else?
That was it.
A question, City Manager. When we've been talking about the separation element in the request for Coastal Commission. Do you know the difference between how long it's taken to get the approval with the separation versus without the separation, or we don't know that?
No, we don't know that. The Coastal Commission puts out an update periodically of what short-term rental ordinances they've approved. And so we see that there's some local ones that have separation requirements that haven't been approved yet, but we don't know how long that's been, we don't know how long that review takes, or if it takes more time, if it's controversial.
Do you have any information as to expectations about submitting to Coastal Commission and having to submit an additional update?
I think right now, if we move forward, if we didn't have to go to Coastal Commission and we just introduced the ordinance, had a second reading in 2 weeks, and then 30 days after that, it would be in effect. For the areas that have to go through Coastal Commission, I'm estimating that it's probably adds 3 or 4 months on top of that timeline if it gets approved, without any issues. And then obviously if it gets kicked back, then we'd have to start over on that process and go through that. So we're probably looking at realistically, I think somebody made a comment about, if we adopt something that we think they'll support, that it could be in effect potentially by summer of 26. If we adopt something more controversial, it may not be 2026 that it's in effect. So.
Okay, hold on just a second. And so you mentioned that if we submitted it outside, we can do an ordinance outside of the Coastal Commission. Is that what is being recommended?
No, so it would only apply to the areas not in the coastal zone. So we aren't recommending that at this time. Particularly, and we've had these discussions over a series of months, and so some of these questions we talked about several months ago, but the coastal commission, or the coastal zone of the city is where the short-term rentals are. So if we wrote an ordinance for the rest of the city and not the coastal zone, it would be writing an ordinance that hardly applies to anybody. So.
Yeah, I guess my final question is, back to one of my first questions was, have you heard anything, or do you know anything about having to submit a second request to the Coastal Commission? And the reason I'm asking that is that I think we're talking about this separation. I mean,
so
are we sure that that is what is holding up other requests?
We believe so. Let's say it that way. Coastal Commission is a state organization, so they don't necessarily provide direct, specific guidance to individual cities looking at things. But we looked at. They have a fairly complicated table that shows the different ordinances that have been approved or has not been approved, and you look and you can see what hasn't been approved and what the difference is, and it tends to be that separation requirement that that we believe is what's causing that.
Okay, and I think my final question is, we are talking currently about 40, 50.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's actually like 26 that we're aware of at this time. I think it's something like that.
And do you know out of those, if there is an area where there's a concentration?
Okay, and it's 46 active Airbnbs and 12 VRBO listings. Those are the current numbers.
Okay.
And the concentration is just in the coastal zone. So.
And final question, I think. How many residents do we have in the coastal? I'm trying to figure out
Yeah, it's
what
tougher.
the density might be, or if there is, I mean, we can have up to 10%, that's 800, and so we only have 40 or 50.
Mhm.
So how are we really being impacted by the separation piece right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And is that something we can, I guess it's two things, right? If we think that the separation issue is what's holding up approvals in the Coastal Commission, that's one thing. But if we don't even know that is what the holdup is, maybe that's not an issue that we really need to be concentrating on at this moment with 50 units.
But what's that map called?
The zoning?
No, the map that would show where the short STRs are in the coastal
Airbnb
zone.
and
Could we, in other words, do we know if there are Airbnbs stacked next to each other?
We did see the map at one point, and we didn't find that.
We didn't.
We didn't find that.
We did not.
Okay, so there's not a problem right now. And I think that's what the gentleman was saying.
I
It's
don't
like-
think we know. There could be some unpermitted.
Right.
That's right.
And that's the other question that I have. And so if you're operating a STR right now in the city of Port Hueneme, are you doing it illegally or?
No,
Without permit.
currently there are no specific regulations related to short-term rentals.
Okay, so we need to get a regulation.
This
And
is
I
why
think
we.
that was going to be one comment back regarding, you mentioned Section 8. We don't have special code sections for Section 8, so there's not a special enforcement process for Section 8. But one question for council is, do you want to create a special code section for short-term rentals, in which case?
So
we should enforce it?
if we pass the separation, included the separation in this, and then we find out there's 3 sets of 2 that are next to each other, do we open ourselves up to be sued or what? I mean,
There's potential, I guess the way I could answer that question is if adopted with a separation requirement, there's a potential that somebody gets told that they cannot have a permit. And then, whether or not somebody sues over that is out of,
and then the possible sad fact of that is this could be a very responsible manager of his property, but and then which one goes, the left or the right? Because the ordinance is going to come in today, and one guy's going to say, well, I did it 2 weeks before him, so I should be able to say, I mean, how are we going to resolve that if it exists? So I really like what I heard earlier when they said, let's see if problems develop and then make adjustments.
yeah, but I have to point out, the reason we're talking about this ordinance is because we heard problems from 200 people. They're just not here tonight, so we're not hearing that.
200 people?
Yeah, so we received the feedback from 200 people as part of the process.
Right, but
They're
all of them didn't say they have a problem or had a problem. They gave us good feedback.
Right.
Well, this is the reason why we have this.
I understand that.
Mayor, I have a question.
Well, I had
Oh,
I had one. Okay, so I am okay removing the spacing just to see how it goes and to see if we run into any issues with spacing. But, we're going to be listening. Well, I'm going to be listening, and if I see that this is an issue, then I'm going to bring it right back.
right. So I'll just say, the reason I was asking the questions earlier is because I think we have to really think about what we're doing up front, because when we submit to the Coastal Commission, then I'm sure there's not gonna be, oh, we're having problems, therefore, let's halfway down the process, let's kind of try to submit again to say something different. So I think that's why it's important for us to kind of talk about it now and you know, kind of state what we're willing to live with or live without, at least initially, if it's gonna take 3 months to a year, right?
You know, and I could imagine that the Coastal Commission may be having a problem with the separation thing, if they are, because if you pass it and there's short-term rentals right next to each other, then again, now we have another problem. How are we gonna resolve that? And this doesn't tell us how we're gonna resolve it, you know, so.
Okay, Councilmember Hernandez, then Councilmember Perez.
Okay, there is a section D here under the separation requirement that says the city manager or designee may grant a waiver from the separation requirement for properties divided by major streets, waterways, or non-residential parcels, provided such exception will not contribute to overconcentration or nuisance conditions. Are there any other criteria that we can add to that so that the city manager can provide a waiver if it's?
And
Grandfather clause.
can,
Yeah.
can I give some background on that section? So the thought with that section is that if you live within a couple hundred feet of another short-term rental, but it's across a major street, I know it says waterway or non-residential parcel, that it's really not very close and it's not the same neighbors, then we could allow that. And so we did include that as one way to sort of soften that requirement. I think my suggestion, we included that to allow for sort of those common sense situations, but if we were gonna make it any broader, it's almost like, do we want that separation requirement or not, you know? And so that was intended to allow it, but I think it's really, is that an issue we want to address? And if so, it should be in the ordinance. If it's not an issue that we're not hearing concerns about and we don't have concerns about, then it shouldn't be in the ordinance. So,
All right.
but that is intended to be sort of that common sense. We have a way to fix a situation that clearly isn't going to cause an issue for
Just thought I'd
someone.
ask. Okay, thank you.
Well, we keep talking about the separation issue, but it sounds like potentially the Coastal Commission is hanging up cities on that issue right now.
I don't think we know that.
But he said it's potentially likely. If you look at the ordinances that are being approved and comparing them to the ones that have not, that's the difference between them, is the separation.
Can we add a?
He also says he doesn't know if,
Right.
how long it is supposed to take, whether it has that or whether it doesn't, so I'm not really sure.
But also, we need to also deal with the issue of how we're going to deal with the signage. Are we going to send that back to staff? I haven't heard your comment necessarily on
That
what you
would have
think
to
about
come
that.
back in another motion. We have to
Yeah.
get through this motion first.
Yeah, and this is part of that, because this is the new motion.
So then, do we just want to?
So can I just say this? As it relates to Councilmember Gama and some other folks mentioned about, you know, what happens when we put this ordinance together and we find out that there are people already within that space limit. Is there any way that we could write in our ordinance that we would maybe grandfather? If we found that kind of thing, we could grandfather them in, but then moving forward, we wouldn't permit it?
I think we could do that. We just have to figure out how to write it, like what the criteria is for being grandfathered, because we don't currently register anybody.
Right.
So it's not like we could say if you're registered now, you're fine.
Exactly.
Maybe off the top of my head, something like if they've
Yeah,
paid,
that's one,
if they've paid TOT tax in the last year on their property, then
Yeah.
they're eligible for a permit, something like that.
Yeah.
What if they're pre-1977? Would that be a criteria?
If they're pre-1977, well, this is, to go back to, there was a comment made about HOAs could opt out of it, and just to be clear, it's like they can't opt out of it. HOAs can always be stricter than the city, but can't be less strict. So the HOA from pre-77 could say, we're not gonna allow any short-term rentals here, and they'd have that ability to do that. But, so our permit process would apply to anybody who can operate a short-term rental.
Okay.
So, Matt,
One question. So, pre-77 HOAs can opt out. Right.
If they already had a rule on the books before, I think that they had to have the rule on the books before the coastal commission.
Okay, and then if we pass an ordinance, they could change their mind down the road?
Well, what I'm saying is the HOAs couldn't say that they're opting out. They can't say, we're not gonna go through your permitting process, in our HOA. They can't do that. They could say, if they meet all that criteria, they could just say, we know the city allows short-term rentals, but we're choosing not to allow short-term rentals.
Could they say, but we're choosing to have, like, say, Surfside 3, could they choose to have onerous rules, like, you can't, units cannot be next to each other for STR purposes?
I don't know their specifics, so it depends on if they have that allowance from the coastal commission.
So if pre-77 says we're gonna allow short-term rentals, they have to abide by our ordinance?
If they say that they're gonna allow short-term rentals, but in the city of Port Hueneme, we require permits for short-term rentals, then a tenant or a
They have to
property owner
abide
has to
by,
come get a
right, and that's what I would expect.
Mhm.
But they could opt out and just say, no, we're not gonna do it. Or they could have tougher rules, but they still have to get a permit through the city.
Yeah, I think the simple way to say it is us creating a permit and requirements doesn't force HOAs to allow short-term rentals if they have the ability to not allow them. But it creates a system for those people who live in HOAs who are allowed to have short-term rentals can now come through the city and get permitted and follow the process.
okay, so, Madam Clerk, can you read us our motion, please? So we know where we are.
Yeah, the motion made by Councilmember Perez, seconded by Councilmember Gama to introduce for first reading the ordinance, find the project to be categorically exempt from CEQA, and amend the postage requirement and remove the separation requirement.
Okay. Is there an amended motion, or would you like to go through we could go through the voting process and see if it passes or fails?
I would like to go through the voting process.
Okay.
I have sections I want to amend.
Well,
Okay. So are the sections that you want to amend, are the section sheets, so you're talking something else? So let's go to the vote.
Yeah, so we were just clarifying, so with the changes being requested, it wouldn't be introducing the ordinance, it would be that we'd come back in the future with those changes.
Amended with the changes, okay. Good,
Okay,
right, so go ahead.
so Councilmember Gama?
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez?
No.
Councilmember Perez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez?
Yes.
Mayor McQueen-Lejeune?
No.
Okay, motion passes with Councilmember Hernandez and Mayor McQueen-Lejeune voting no.
No, you don't get to make your amendments, Jess.
Yes,
No, we were just voting on
yes,
that.
we were just voting on
that
that,
little
because he
section.
has something different, he has.
I have some different.
So the council could still talk about
Yes.
additional changes.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? So what got approved right now is that we're not gonna introduce the ordinance, we're gonna make modifications to posting and spacing, or separation. So now,
Now it's just the modification.
if you wanted to talk about any modifications, you
Yeah.
could.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, okay.
Hold on. We just voted to remove separation,
No.
and clerk,
Yes, you did.
Yes, so I had
Thank you.
to bring back the ordinance to amend the postage requirement and remove the separation requirement.
thank you.
Yes. And now Mayor Pro Tem has a different area.
Yeah, I have a different section that I want to amend. Section 4664, the proposal annual permit fee. I would like to see the annual permit fee, the initial annual permit fee of $9.95 I'm okay with. But any, for every renewal of that annual permit fee should be, after your first year, it should It should be lowered to $500. Do I have a,
Go ahead.
do I have a motion?
No.
Is that my motion? Yeah.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
Is to decrease the $995 to $500 annual fee.
Yeah, so my annual permit fee for your first initial permit is $995, and then lower it to $500 for renewal. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Okay, motion fails. Is
All
there
right.
another area?
Yes. Actually, no, because it's already been mentioned, so I'm good.
Okay, great. And so I think that we have the motion for what we're going to do moving forward, to make the amendment, so we're going to. Okay, great,
So
sounds good.
the item will return to council in the future with discussion of the notice and separation requirements.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we're going to move to item number 7, Cannabis Development Agreement Compliance Review and Findings of Exemption from CEQA. Madam Clerk, do you have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Great. Will staff please present the report?
Yeah, and I'm going to hand this off to Charles Peretz, our Deputy City Manager, to provide a presentation with just, I'm going to give a quick note that this is our third, I think it's our third series of the development agreement reviews. We have many development agreements related to cannabis, and so the first two were focused on the businesses that had been out of compliance with most terms of the development agreement. This one is generally more focused on now the ones that are in compliance with, I think there's one exception that we'll highlight. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Peretz.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. As the city manager indicated, this evening we're going to conduct a public hearing to review 11 cannabis-related development agreements. On October 20th, the council conducted a similar public hearing to review 5 businesses that were determined to be out of compliance. Tonight's hearing addresses the remaining cannabis businesses, nearly all of which are recommended to be found in complete or partial compliance. So as we know and we heard during the October 20th council meeting, the city uses these development agreements to establish the terms and conditions for the development and operation of the cannabis businesses. The agreements require businesses to provide various public benefits, including long-term employment opportunities, sales tax revenues, contractual payments, and community benefits. Additionally, compliance with payment obligations, financial audits, city ordinances, permits, and other applicable regulations are considered material terms of these agreements. Resolution 4483 provides for annual reviews to assess compliance with the material terms of each of the agreements. Summaries and recommended findings are provided during the hearing for all of the 11 businesses under review. So this slide simply lists the businesses that we're going to review this evening. We'll go through them in greater detail. So the first grouping of 5 businesses, based on staff's review, it's recommended that the council determine that these businesses are in compliance with their respective development agreements. For the record, the common names for these businesses, Skunk Masters, Wheelhouse, Royal Kush, also known as Tech Delivery, Safeport, and Tradecraft Farms. As noted in the staff report, Tradecraft was approved as a microbusiness performing retail cultivation and distribution operations. All 3 components are in operation, but the cultivation and distribution operations are operating at a smaller scale than was originally envisioned. In communicating with the developer, we were advised that further expansion and expanding those uses would jeopardize long-term sustainability of the business. Since the business is providing, through its existing operations, public benefits, including employment opportunities, sales tax, contractual payments, and community benefits, staff is recommending that council authorize staff to work with the developer to modify the approved development plan. In other words, to keep performing the three operational aspects of the microbusiness just at the current smaller scale than was originally envisioned. The next grouping of businesses are those recommended to be found in partial compliance. The first one is BB&SE, a cannabis delivery business located at 2667 North Ventura Road. In September, we're advised that the business experienced some unanticipated staffing issues and was temporarily closed for approximately 6 weeks. That closure impacted the city's ability to conduct its annual compliance inspection. The compliance inspection has been rescheduled for mid-December, and as such, the recommended action is to find the business in partial compliance and direct staff to return to the council if the developer fails to comply with the requirement to hold the inspection. The next business, Innovative Concepts Investments Group, more commonly known as iHeart Cannabis, is a cannabis delivery business located at 521 West Channel Islands Boulevard. Sure. Want a note for the
Yeah,
record?
can we take one beat? This is a public hearing, so we actually may need to pause.
We'll wait for the.
Yeah. Are we able to just take a recess?
So want to put us at recess?
Yes. Good? Okay.
We are going to take a small recess. The time is 8:46.
Thank you.
convene to the public hearing.
So the next business under review and recommended to be found in partial compliance is Innovative Concepts Investments Group, also known as iHeart Cannabis. It's a delivery service located at 521 West Channel Islands Boulevard. That developer executed a payment plan and made its first payment to address an outstanding balance with the city in October. Current balance owed is, as shown on the screen, $17,380.12. Additionally, the developer has indicated that they are in compliance with the community benefit requirement. They have not yet provided documentation to support that, but indicated they will be doing that shortly. As a result, the staff recommendation is to find the developer in partial compliance and direct staff to return to council if the payment plan is not followed or if information regarding the community benefit is not provided. The next business, known as DBO Investments PH, also known as From the Earth, is a cannabis dispensary located at 2675 North Ventura Road. Earlier this month, the developer executed a payment plan and made the first payment towards their outstanding balance with the city. That current outstanding balance is $20,132. The developer indicated interest in supporting specific local groups through community benefit, and it's anticipated that documentation regarding associated payments will be provided in the near term. Once again, the recommendation is that the council find this developer in partial compliance and direct staff to return to council if the developer fails to adhere to the terms of the payment plan or fails to provide information demonstrating compliance with the community benefit requirement. The ninth business under review this evening is Blue Diamond LLC, which is a cannabis delivery business located at 501 West Channel Islands Boulevard. In July, the city met with the developer to review various outstanding issues related to the development agreement, and in October, a payment plan was executed, and once again, the first payment was successfully received by the city. The current outstanding balance is just over $13,000. The developer has not provided documentation about their community benefit requirement and has made a request that the council consider removing this requirement from the agreement. As noted in the staff report, that requirement is a standard provision for all cannabis development agreements, and staff does not recommend it be removed. Additionally, the city is advised that the city's auditor conducted a financial assessment of the revenues provided by the business has not been able to be complete based on the level of response from this business. The recommended action is to find the developer in partial compliance and to direct staff to return to the council if the developer fails to adhere to the terms of the payment plan, fails to comply with the development agreement's community benefit requirement, or fails to cooperate with the performance of the financial audit. The next business under review is Port Retail, also known as Tree Factory, which is a cannabis dispensary located at 437 West Channel Islands Boulevard. At the end of July, staff visited the business in an effort to enhance communication and communicate about various requirements under the development agreement. Several months following the visit, communication from the developer was lacking, both to the city and the city's auditor. However, in October, the developer executed a payment plan and has now made its first payment, leaving a current balance just over $13,000. Earlier this month, staff communicated with the store manager, who indicated a desire to address outstanding concerns, which include communicating with the auditor and providing information about community benefit payments. The recommendation is to find the developer in partial compliance and direct staff to return to the council if the payment plan is not followed, documentation of community benefits is not provided, or if cooperation with the audit is not achieved. The last business under review this evening is Front Door Enterprises, also known as Ecomeds, which is a cannabis delivery business located at 521 West Channel Islands Boulevard. The business has not been operating since October 2024, and per the attached rebranding plan that's part of the agenda packet, the business notified the city that it plans to reopen April of next year. Although a payment plan was executed in September and the first payment was received, the second payment, which was due October 19th, was not received, and outreach efforts from the city have gone unanswered. The current balance is just over $5,500. Additionally, the developer has non-responsive to outreach from the city's auditor and has not provided information to demonstrate compliance with the community benefit requirement. Staff recommends, upon the basis of substantial evidence, that it find the developer out of compliance and in default of the agreement, and direct staff to provide written notice of the city's intent to revoke the agreement if default is not cured within 30 days. As part of the action tonight, it's recommended that council find that the review of the development agreements is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15309 of the California Code of Regulations. Monitoring executed payment plans is expected to facilitate the collection of past due balances, and the recommended findings of partial compliance are designed to support that effort. The one business that's recommended to be found out of compliance is not currently operating and therefore not providing public benefits to the city. If the default remains uncured and the agreement is ultimately revoked, anticipated revenues from that business would not be realized. And that brings us to the recommendation slide. So the recommendation is to open the public hearing and take testimonial and documentary evidence, to close the public hearing and consider the evidence, to adopt a resolution determining that the following cannabis businesses are in compliance with their respective development agreements: Freedom First Association, also known as Skunk Masters; Westside Professional Management LLC, also known as Wheelhouse; Tech Delivery Solutions LLC, also known as Royal Kush; Harbor Management Group DBA, also known as Safeport; and Tradecraft Farms Port Hueneme LLC, and adopt resolutions determining the following cannabis businesses are in partial compliance with their respective development agreements: BBNSE Incorporated, Blue Diamond LLC, DBO Investments PH LLC, also known as From the Earth, Innovative Concepts Investment Group LLC, also known as iHeart Cannabis, and Port Retail, also known as Tree Factory. And adopt a resolution determining that Front Door Enterprises, also known as EcoMeds, is out of compliance and in default of its development agreement, and direct staff to provide written notice of the city's intent to revoke the agreement if default is not cured within 30 days, and make a determination the project is exempt under CEQA, and take such additional related action that may be desirable. That concludes the staff presentation. I'm available for questions.
Great. Are there any questions for staff? Any questions? Go right ahead.
So, number 5, Tradecraft Ventures LLC. Today they just introduced our building code, and since this is a greenhouse, I did read something about greenhouses in that building code. Are they in compliance with that greenhouse operation?
So it's a little complicated, but the simple answer is they had started to build out their, and I'm trying to remember the technical word, is it
Cultivation.
Yeah. So they had started to build out their cultivation lab. They didn't, they came back to council, maybe it was 18 months ago, because they asked basically not to have to build out the full, however many 18,000 square feet or whatever it was, cultivation lab, because, and this is something we talked about with the council at that time, is that because of our electricity costs and other costs that really no California, Southern California, Ventura County businesses have really been able to make the cultivation really work well. So essentially, they did some cultivation. They didn't do as much as they had initially promised 6 or 7 years ago. And then at that time, the council asked us to work with them and see what we could come up with and what we can come to agreement on. So I think as part of this, what we're recommending is moving forward with what cultivation they have, but not requiring them to build the additional cultivation that would have been substantially more than what they currently have.
Okay. Number 6, BBS&E Incorporated. Why is it taking, why did it take so long to reschedule that second, the second week? Like, why are we just can't say, okay, well, when are you available?
Yeah, the inspector that we use is a consultant. This is a very busy time of the year for them, so it was really their schedule coordination, not so much the developer. It was our consultant wasn't immediately available for rescheduling.
But they were available.
They were available as of the first week of November. Yes, they reopened earlier this month.
So it seems like most of the issues we're having is regarding CBF, correct?
CBF?
Community Benefit Fund?
Oh, okay. That is one of the issues that is present with multiple dispensaries. And just to be clear, there is a community benefit requirement in the agreement. The CBF, we usually talk about the Community Benefit Fund, the city and the port. That's a different
Community
thing.
benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like that 1%, it seems to, there's, for the city, it's hard, it's one of them hard details to look at. You know, like there's really not a lot of oversight.
There historically hasn't been. There are a number of businesses that have been diligent in providing the information. Over the last couple of months, as the issue has transitioned to the city manager's office, we've been more active in communicating with the businesses about this requirement and providing documentation. So I anticipate moving forward, we'll have a better program in place to more timely receive that information.
So how often are they reporting that?
There is a space on their monthly revenue reports to report that information. Some are reporting that regularly, and some have not been doing that.
Okay. That was it. Thanks.
Great. Any other questions? Councilmember Gama?
I noticed that there's only one failure to pay the 5% and 5% of gross sales. And then the rest of the default amounts are related to audits, inspection, annual development fee. Have we ever looked at the fees to see if they make sense? Are they too expensive? Because they do look pretty severe.
Yeah, the city manager and I have had conversations, and I think the council will recall over the last year or so, there have been, maybe last 2 years, there have been certain modifications. The backgrounding requirement has been modified so that not all employees have to go through the city's background. That was one way that we reduced the cost impact on businesses. Another was the audit that we used to have was much more comprehensive and much more costly.
Yes, and I see that the 2023 audits are like 3-4 times the current audit price.
Correct. So those were two changes that were made to lessen the impact of businesses, and we are regularly reviewing the requirements and the costs associated with those requirements on businesses. So we're not proposing any modifications tonight, but that is something that we're taking under advisement and will likely in the next calendar year be presenting information to council for consideration.
It's my recollection that we did lessen the late fee and some fees to a prior dispensary. Have any of the current dispensaries not in compliance asked for a reduction in fees?
We, in addition to lowering that cost for that dispensary, we had a standard approval from the council to lower the late fee for all businesses that either paid or entered into a payment plan. And the items tonight for those businesses that did have late fees do reflect a 50% reduction of those late fees. So yes, all of the businesses have been treated equitably and received that reduction.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we are going to open the public hearing. The time is now 9:07. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
No public comments for this item.
Okay, then we will then close the public hearing, and it is still 9:07. So we have the recommendation in front of us. So is there a motion and a second?
Move to approve staff recommendation.
Second?
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Okay. Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Perez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Yes.
Mayor McQueen-Lejeune.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you for your report. We'll move to item number 8, our last agenda item, a discussion of community benefit fund allocations for fiscal year 2025-2026 funding cycle. Will staff please present the report?
Yes, thank you. So this item is to consider the community benefit fund allocations for this fiscal year. We are coming to the end of the fiscal year with approximately 2 more city port joint meetings, one in November and one in December. So we are bringing this item back to the council to get direction from the council to the joint committee on how the council would wish to proceed. Just as some background, we've talked about this, but the overview of what the community benefit fund can be used for are the 4 categories listed on this slide: shoreline protection, community development, opportunistic endeavors, and then there was that category of other that has been much discussed. And so those are the 4 categories per the contracts we have with the port for the community benefit fund. The port places in each year, it's $100,000 with CPI adjustments built in, so it's closer to about $130,000 on the years that the port's revenues exceed $13 million. That occurred this year, and so there is about $130,000 allocated to the community benefit fund this year. The city council discussed well, actually, let me back up and say the city council created a application process to try to be able to get more information from people that were proposing and asking for community benefit funds. Those applications were reviewed by the Citizens Advisory Commission on April 14th of this year, and the CAC provided recommendations by breaking those applications down into priority level 1, 2, and 3 priorities. The city council then received that recommendation, and on April 21st of 2025, gave direction to the committee on which projects would be preferred to fund this year. And so the city representatives on the City Port Joint Committee took those allocations or those recommendations to the Joint Committee. And the Joint Committee had then indicated that they needed to have their visioning workshop because they were considering another approach to funding community benefit fund projects this year. And our understanding is that visioning workshop occurred actually earlier today. I think it was either at 2 or 3 o'clock. And so we included a slide quickly before this meeting on what we understand was decided at that time. So we'll discuss that. As mentioned on the second slide, the port had indicated they were interested in shifting towards one major economic development project rather than multiple smaller projects. The board discussed earlier today. We did, as staff, we had identified a potential joint economic development project that was in our economic development plan, being the wayfinding signage program. And so we provided some information to the port on that. And then with the, we'll talk about the port's feedback in a moment, but again, to reiterate, we essentially have 2 joint committee meetings, one later this week and one in December. And so essentially we're looking for council direction on what approach to take with the community benefit fund this year. I think one key thing we just wanted to reiterate, because there's always the question of what if we don't come to an agreement. And so the staff report has it in more detail, but if no agreement is reached, the agreement essentially creates a council, or requires a joint council Harbor District board meeting that would have all 5 representatives of the council, all 5 representatives of the harbor board, and essentially then those there would be a vote on projects with that full group. So if there's not an agreement reached, potentially over the next 2 meetings, there would be the potential for that next step in the contract. And so just to refresh everybody's memory of what the council did provide to the committee back in April, there was these 3 levels of projects, priority levels. The council essentially at that time had said, focus on priority level 1, and then obviously the port would potentially bring their own initiatives as well. And so then it was, and if there was any additional funding, that priority level 2 projects be considered. And so this was what was presented. Today, the board reviewed and provided essentially their list of projects. And so the list includes a feasibility study with Beacon for shoreline preservation options and these are the dollar amounts proposed by the Harbor District Board. $50,000 for that project, $5,000 for the robotics competition, $20,000 for tree planting, $31,000 for wayfinding signs, and $31,000 for a grant writer. So that is what the port proposed, and it happened right before this meeting. So I think this is the first time we're sharing that information with the council. And so at this time, we have, just to go back, so there was our list from in April, and then the port's list from earlier today. And so the question for the council would be whether, really there's a lot of options, but the council could look at these lists and identify which projects they would want to fund this year to give that direction to the joint committee. There's a lot of approaches. At this point, with only 2 meetings left, there's not a whole lot of time. So there could even just be approaches like proposing, for example, a 50-50 split, and that each agency, propose 50% of the projects. That could be one idea. There's a lot of ways to do it, but essentially, we're running out of time to give that direction to the committee to try to come to an agreement with the port before the end of the year. And then, again, just to reiterate, the last step would be if we don't come to an agreement, that per the contract, we'd have to have a joint full board, full council meeting to then vote on potential projects. So those are sort of the different paths, big picture. So with that, we can answer questions. I don't know how clarifying that was, but that's the background, and we're happy to answer any questions about the process or what we know about some of these projects.
Can I just ask a quick question? So can you tell, do you have information on what the tree planting is?
So it's funny, that's exactly why I said what we know about the projects is I don't have any detail on what trees or where or any of those answers. We just got the list.
Okay, and I know we've talked about the grant writer before. Now,
Yes.
is this, I thought we'd already put some
We did.
money for
Yeah,
that.
last year's had a $50,000 allocation for a grant writer.
15,000. 15?
50,000.
50,000, okay. And the wayfinding signs, I'm just surprised it's just 31,000, but there's money from prior years? Because I thought there was
is
an
no
economic-
money allocated to those yet.
Okay,
I think when we had talked at the last joint meeting, we had talked about maybe allocating a larger portion, or even like projects that hadn't been completed from prior years and putting that money towards wayfinding, but this was what we got back.
okay.
So,
And what about the tree planting? You know anything about that?
no.
Okay, and then there was some conversation about a beacon and feasibility study, but I had not seen that as an economic development project that was discussed at all.
No, and it's not, that's not part of our economic development plan.
Right, okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start at the end.
We should.
So we submitted a list
Prerogative.
like 6 months ago, and my understanding is they haven't even looked at it or even, they don't even know what's on our list. So I don't even know how to put that into a question.
Yeah.
I believe we provided it.
Yeah, I don't
back in
believe that
May.
to be true. They have the list, and it's come out at a couple of meetings, but it was communicated that they weren't ready because they had not had their discussion yet, and that this really is our personal list, not a list that has been approved, so,
And is this their personal list?
yes.
that-
That means until we communicate and vote on a list, it is not an official list. So this is what we took to the discussion, and this is what they're bringing.
Mike, Mayor?
And this is what they're bringing to the discussion, so.
So we took to the discussion $50,000 for Beacon.
No.
No.
No, that's.
Okay.
So that's them coming back to us.
Okay.
This is our list from April 21st, right?
So
And-
we're in questions period right now, right?
And this is the
Okay.
courts list.
So I don't understand this feasibility study with Beacon for shoreline preservation options. We heard from the experts, we heard from Dr. Patch, and I think the science is settled. Port of Hueneme is very unique, west-facing Silver Strand Beach, south-facing Hueneme Beach. It's settled. So I just don't understand, what is that, what? And then Beacon's not in the business of doing preservation studies. I don't understand that at all. But what I do understand, I know one commissioner said we should put groins, and the science on groins is settled. So we need more information on that $50,000.
So, can I just kind of share what I think that we probably should do? Is we have a list that we have prioritized. And so maybe a step would be for us to go back to our list and really talk about, really, is that the list, and are those amounts the amounts that we really want to move forward to have a discussion on?
I understand that, but the problem is that we put all these nonprofits through a application process, and then we approve them, and they're like literally, I get calls from some of them all the time, like, where's the, how do we go back on that?
When
Oh,
we-
it was never approved.
Yeah, so,
Well-
so let me just say this if I can. So one of the things that I think we know because we've all discussed it, but one of the things that I think that we've learned probably the hard way is this list is being viewed as our list. That's it, just our list. And regardless of what process we have gone through, the list is our list. And so my comment that I just made about looking at this list again, I think I've been probably the biggest proponent of saying, we put our community through a process early in the year. And so I'm struggling with that. But I also know that the five of us are not going to make this decision. It's going to be us and another group. So we have to be willing to, like we would do in any other discussion about a purchase or anything else, we have to look at our list and say, do we want to go and fight for this list? Understanding that, and I want to be very clear.
Mayor, I'm so sorry.
It is not, it is from April till our last meeting, the conversation has been, the drumbeat has been, we want big items. We want big
Who?
items. The port. When I say the port, I'm talking about it's the city port. So on this side, we're saying, hey, this is our list.
Yep.
But the port has their own personal list. So what I'm saying is that we have to be prepared to have a discussion.
May I?
And the discussion is not that we're willing to just say, this is it, we're sticking to this, and what it says is what we're gonna go with. We have to be able to come to the table like we expect them to come to table and meet us halfway.
True, but if you look at their proposal, it's not even anywhere near what we initially suggested.
Exactly. So that's why I think we need to.
And I agree,
Excuse me,
I
I
agree.
haven't had a chance to talk, Mayor Pro Tem hasn't had a chance to talk, so let's do this.
Okay,
So
so,
we each have time.
yes, so
on the
as
agenda.
a member, Mayor Pro Tem and I are members of the committee, so we've been in the room, so I'm trying to communicate
Awesome.
what's going on and the communication that has happened in the room. So I think that's important for you all to know that when we start talking about this and talk about other things. Right? Go ahead.
Okay, so I think there's a couple things that we agree on, right? We agree on, in the staff report, it calls for 25K in wayfindings, but, you know, they're willing to go 31,000. And then the grant, the grant writing, those are agreements, right? We agree with those things.
Well, I had a question about that particular item, but I haven't had a chance to ask it.
Okay. We've funded First Robotics before, 5,000, that was one. Now, now talking about our list. So level one equates to $85,934 of city port initiatives. What if we proposed half, 42.5 for all level ones? Would that be a good counter to the port?
So you
that's
have
your
to,
question? Go ahead.
yeah, you have to consider just to, if you could go back to that.
Yeah.
If you could go back to our list, you have to consider one that the high school robotics is on there, that we both agree on that one. So, but we have ours down at for 10,000. They
Yeah, so-
recommend 5,000.
Well,
And
what,
then-
what they're asking for is the First Robotics competition. What we're at, what this list is the
So
Hueneme
they're
High
sep-
School.
You think those are separate?
Those
Do
are
we
two
know that for
separate-
sure?
Yeah.
Okay, you do know,
100%.
you actually had that discussion with the commissioners?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that's separate. The other thing is that I would want to make sure that these nonprofits are in good standing. Because the last time I checked, the Port Hueneme Explorers were not. Okay, so that would be something, I think, a criteria we should have in place.
Why?
Says the state of California.
That does not require them from receiving money, though, so why?
Well, I mean, we'd have to, we don't need to get into a discussion about it, I'm just saying that we, yeah. The other question I had is I know that there was an interest in pursuing larger projects, and I'm not sure when that was introduced during the meetings, but we went through this process, and as Councilwoman Perez mentioned, that people feel they were promised, they had this expectation that these allocations were a done deal and that this was the amount they were going to get. Is there any possibility that we can ask the port that since we had already initiated this process, let us fund our level ones, maybe 50%, and then next year we'll do the large projects. And we'll start, a new process with the new money.
So that's the question,
Have you had that
So-
discussion?
So, I'm sorry. So, yes, we have talked about our process. We have talked about instituting the new process for getting applications from our residents. We have shared this list with them. But I will tell you, at no time did I ever feel that they even considered the list.
Meanwhile, they were saying, though, that they
Big
wanted large
projects,
projects.
yes.
Yeah.
I think one commissioner was saying that, as far as I know, because I never saw a meeting where they agendized CBF and had a discussion and voted to do big projects. Never did I see that. So that's one thing. Secondly, I think we're both operating under different self-imposed understanding of the agreement. And I say that because if we go back to how this came to be, there was a lawsuit that the city of Port Hueneme filed against the Port of Hueneme, and the Port of Hueneme and the city of Port Hueneme agreed to a settlement agreement. And if you read here, it says community development, implementing joint initiatives that foster the community's economic, social, and environmental. Does that mean the city of Port Hueneme? Now, I, myself, speaking for myself, not the rest of you, or prior councils, I've always thought that this money was to be spent in the city of Port Hueneme. After all, it was a settlement agreement to a lawsuit that the city of Port Hueneme filed against the Port of Hueneme. So when I hear about the discussions today about doing things in Oxnard and further beyond, I think we have two different, at least I do. I don't know about how the rest of you feel. And then the other issue is that it was my understanding that if we don't agree after a certain period of time, then the money's just split in half and do with it what you want. Is that true, Mr. City Manager?
Not quite.
Not quite.
And that's what we put in the staff report. So,
right.
So you could potentially get that to there, but it's like years down the road.
Right. So
the first step is a joint full meeting.
Right.
All 5 of them, all 5 of us.
And we've been trying to have a joint meeting for quite some time. And I think that's the answer. And I think we have to get in a room, all 10 of us, and we're going to have to hopefully agree on the parameters for doing this. Because honestly, the 5 of us are here to set policy for an organization that's a multi-million-dollar organization, and we spend more time on this community benefit fund than we do on the more important things. So maybe we do need to get in a room and so when I hear the port start talking about economic development, what they're really saying is, we want you to sell us that land. Why don't you just say it?
Okay.
Just say it. So So I think at this point, been saying it for a while. We have to have a joint meeting. We have to talk it out. And if they don't want a joint meeting, they're going to have a joint meeting because the agreement said we're going to have a joint meeting.
So there's good news and there may be bad news. The good news is we can talk about this and we can talk about,
5 of us?
listen, we can look at, so we have a meeting on Wednesday, right? We have a joint city meeting on, Port City meeting on Wednesday. My expectation is that the council is going to give us some information that we can go into that meeting and have a discussion. But we can't do that if we're not talking about what we're taking to the table. Now, if the decision is we have items 1 through 7 and we don't want to make any changes, we want to go in with these and fight for these, I mean, that's an answer the council can make, but I think that is not going to happen.
So
I can tell you, the port is not going to approve our 1 through 7. I can tell you that for sure. And so that's why, let me finish saying this. That's why we, I think, need to have a real discussion about our priority ones so that when we go in the room, I mean, we just looked at the port list.
If you're telling us they're not going to approve it, then we need to have a joint meeting.
No, that's not, no. I said they're not going to approve number 1 through 7 the way it is when, can you go to page 2, please? We just said, yes, we need a grant writer. We just said, yes, wayfinding sites, right? And that right there doesn't even allow us to get to the 85,000 or the, whatever the number is, right? We have robotics.
So they dismissed our 1 through 7. So this is, to me, we went through a process and we need to honor our process.
But come on, let's remember that you just said it, Councilmember Gama, they're our 1 through 7, right? We have to actually go in a room and come up with an agreement with the port. And so we have to have a discussion about, I mean, and the answer might be, you know, it may pass on this dais, that the answer is, we don't want to change anything, just go in with those items. I mean, that could be the answer, but I don't think that's the right answer.
Well, it's not going to get anywhere.
Okay, so if I could talk.
Go ahead.
Please, and I have the permission of the mayor to talk. I do agree with Mayor Pro Tem's approach that, you know, we've had our list, we've had it for a while now, we've had time to discuss it, we even took the time to prioritize it. We know what these projects are about, we know who they are going, where the money is going to. We became familiar, we had applications. We don't have anything on these items, so we have to do the best we can to try to find some compromise. You know, where can we meet up?
Right.
And I think Mayor Pro Tem was on a good track to doing that. So let's send you back with those areas that we can compromise on, and then figure out how, I mean, maybe we have to cut our list down. Maybe we have to go 50% on our list. But it's still something for these agencies that have been waiting.
I absolutely disagree with that,
You didn't give permission to talk yet. Please, respect the process.
may I talk?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a co-chair on Beacon, and no request has been made to Beacon Executive Director for a feasibility study. So to me, that's just throwing a spit wad on the wall and saying, oh, $50,000. Where's, at least with the items that we submitted, we know where it's going. And they're not big items. And we have a history over the last several years of supporting those organizations through the Community Benefit Fund. And guess what? The organizations that we proposed, they're in the city of Port Hueneme. So I think we have to stand tall behind the list that we submitted to respect the process. And then if the port can't agree with us, then maybe we should work towards that joint meeting, which I think is long overdue.
And let me just ask one question. When you say respect the process, what process are you talking about?
The process that we went through,
The city's process?
yes.
I have a question. Don't we already have money from last time allocated for a grant writer, like 50,000 still that we haven't used?
50,000, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So then
Yeah, there you go.
we haven't even used that yet. Why don't we just go through this right now and filter out what we're willing to agree on and get rid of what we're not willing to approve?
For the level one?
Yes.
No, for their
For their list.
Oh, their
And
list.
then after that,
Yeah, but
then
we
can
haven't
discuss our
heard,
list.
like, we're gonna hear about it tomorrow. We haven't had time to,
Wednesday?
or Wednesday.
Well, we already know that they approved this. This is.
Well, this happened today, right?
So that's interesting. So did they have a public meeting today or not?
Yes.
And was it open to the public? Because they had two agendas, one for the workshop and then one for the regular meeting. So I'm still kind of confused.
I don't think none of us know what some of these things are, like.
Yes.
But the
So,
last time they did a workshop, they closed the door on the public, so.
okay, so can we go back really quick? Because I wanted to talk about the wayfinding signs. You mentioned earlier about 25,000. That's 25,000 per sign. So if we're getting 4 or 5, that's 100,000, 125,000. And so,
Yeah, but what did we initially ask for?
We didn't ask
We-
for
no.
anything. They
They were gonna make it a
when
big
we had a
project.
joint meeting, and they had asked about if we had any sort of shelf-ready, you know, big projects in the economic development plan, and we said that's the one that's in the plan, and then we gave the cost estimates based on that plan, which are very rough, but
Was that for one sign?
one sign
it was roughly like the estimate per the consultants who helped put the plan together was $20,000 to $25,000 per sign.
and we were looking at 4 or 5.
Which we discussed. Why approve a project that's only partially paid for when we have to fit the bill for the rest of it? I mean, it makes
We
no
wouldn't,
sense to do
though.
that.
We wouldn't foot the bill for the rest of it. We'd have to find money.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that we understand 31,000 is not the wayfinding signs. That's just a sign,
Yeah.
right, versus the project for 4 or 5 signs.
Well-
And then there is a $50,000 that we already have, that was approved last year, the year before, 50,000 for that.
For grant writing?
Grant writing, yeah, I'm sorry.
So, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
The grant writing, you know, that's an awful lot of money for a grant writer, 50,000, so is 31,000. So I think when you go back to your meeting, I think there has to be a discussion on realistic fees that a grant writer might charge for writing a basic grant. And maybe there's multiple grants that could be written. We need to really figure out what we want this grant writer to do. And James, I know you have experience working with grant writers, and maybe the group can come together on, okay, let's say a grant writer, you pay $10,000 to write a grant. Okay, with this money, we can write 3 grants, you know. But let's find a dollar amount. They say 50,000, we're saying 30,000. What do we want it to be?
No, 50,000 is already approved. This would be an additional 30,000.
So this would be taking it to 81,000.
Which seems overkill.
Okay, so that maybe we suggest then that the 31,000 go toward wayfinding signs.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I don't know if before you start directing or deciding if you want to take public comment.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
May I just make one more comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, on tree planting, $20,000. What would be nice, it would be like, yeah, we propose planting a bunch of coastal oaks wherever Gama wants them. But, or I'm being funny, but the thing is like, where are you gonna put $20,000 worth of trees? I mean, we have 4,000 trees in the city. So again, give us information that tells us what your plan is, because this, I don't get that.
Okay. So I think we have a public comment.
Jan Burke.
So I'm sitting here listening to you, and I too am disappointed that we have let all of these organizations down. And, you know, we had the best intentions to put Port Hueneme organizations front and center this time, not a statue, which, you know, was rather, we really wanted to bring it home and make it a hometown sort of feel and give it, give our home organizations some credibility and some support that they need. And I think the delay has been very, very frustrating, and it feels like there's a very strong resistance from the port. And it's disappointing, and I'm very sad by that, because we're supposed to be collaborative, and we're supposed to be partners, and we're supposed to be working together, and that's not happening. I don't see it happening. We've asked for joint meetings. That hasn't happened. We'd like to see that happen. And if it doesn't happen, I think that we're at a point now where this city of Port Hueneme needs to take a stronger stand and say, we're going to fund these organizations with our 50% of the money. If the port can't come to the table for city of Port Hueneme events and community event, support, it just is shocking to me. I just was reading this doc talk for October. 6 events and activities, and I counted them all, and they're all supporting Oxnard functions and festivals. Nothing for Port Hueneme. So this goes back to my focus, and I think that the Hueneme HOA Coalition has really focused on this, because the Bard statue really brought it to light. That was not in the best interest for our city. That was the best interest for the port. We want to see this collaborative effort come together so it's benefiting the city. This agreement was made because of the lawsuit, because of the challenges that the two entities had, to try to heal those wounds. The only way it's going to heal is if the port agrees to help the city and the city organizations and the city projects that we really feel are important, that's to use the port's words, to our city. It's time to fish or cut bait. And I think if we can't get to the fishing point, let's cut the bait.
Adam Vega?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. I hope to provide a little bit more clarity rather than add to the confusion. It's the desire of the port to be able to work collaboratively. This list is essentially just kind of the next step in moving that conversation forward for Wednesday. And just to kind of fill in some of the blanks, I know the feasibility study with Beacon, to Councilmember Gama's point, and Mayor Pro Tem Lopez's desire to kind of figure out options and opportunities for looking at Beacon as a resource to see what's feasible. And of course, 50,000 wouldn't be plans, studies, designs by an engineering firm. It'd mainly be a report to kind of show the situation, you know, what's at play and how this all aligns with dredging. The robotics competition, yes, to your point, is specifically for the first robotics team. Tree planting, I think there's a couple different opportunities to look at that, whether it's Arbor Day, Clean Air Day. There's things where trees could, you know, be found in cracks or crevices. I don't think you can have too many trees. The wayfinding signs, I know that there was a comment regarding the City of Oxnard's initiative to incorporate wayfinding signs into their city. They found the cost to be a little bit lower, so I think the desire is to share what those numbers are and the opportunity to actually provide more signs rather than one at the dollar amount of $25,000. Last but not least, I think the grant writing was specifically focused on the economic development opportunity. Again, for the sake of conversation, for the respective members of this board to continue on Wednesday. Lastly, with that minute of time left, this was simply to bring forward desires and focus under those 4 categories. By no means have any of the lists proposed by the CAC been rejected or ignored. It's simply kind of a coming and meeting in the middle to figure out what can be pulled, maybe what amounts go up, what comes down, but essentially just a next step in the process. I'd be happy to provide any clarity for any outstanding questions. And I think that is going to be my time. So thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Okay.
Can I just throw
back to
some?
discussion? Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
can I just throw an idea out, based on what we know right now? I understand you have to go back on Wednesday and discuss this with Port Commission. Because we don't really know about what this feasibility study is supposed to do, and there might be other, and if we're looking at a study or a plan, there might be other sources of funding. I would propose that we not fund the 50, that we not support the 50, and that we not support the tree planting, and that the grant writer, since we have the $50,000, we do away with that, which gives us $101,000 that conceivably could be used to fund our level 1 projects. Just throwing that out there for discussion.
Okay, so I didn't hear you say anything about
Leave the way funding finding signs.
with just the 31,000.
Well, we could play with the numbers, but I like that project since we've already started it.
Did you have something, Councilmember Rama?
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Hernandez. I think that's a really great strategy to start this off, speaking on Wednesday. But on the broader issue, I really think we need to come together as 2 bodies and figure out a easier way to support. And maybe we could have a discussion. Is it the city of Port Hueneme that we want to support through this community benefit fund? Because as we just saw, the Port of Hueneme supports Oxnard outside of the community benefit fund. So, yeah, maybe it's time for that. But I agree with Councilmember Hernandez.
Another comment I wanted to make, Mayor.
Wait, hold on. Did you have anything?
I'll agree with Councilmember Hernandez's suggestion.
So level ones here, there's two organizations that are outside of Hueneme.
That's the comment I wanted to,
And so there's Nate's Place Wellness and Recovery Center, that's in the harbor. And then there's the Equine Empowerment Foundation. So what you just said is striking those two things off the list.
Nate's Place is looking in Hueneme, and they're on the corner of Hueneme and Oxnard, so it's, you know,
they're in Oxnard.
That's Ventura County unincorporated.
I know.
Yeah, they're outside.
I'm just saying, I'm just trying to be specific, because you stated something, and then there's two items on the list.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we.
So
But
you
they're
want
really,
out.
they're really close. No, I mean, I'm just saying that, you know, Nate's Place is attempting to buy
I get it.
the building.
I get it.
in
I just want to
Hueneme.
make sure that you're not trying to strike those two things out of the list.
No.
Okay. Do we agree on the funding on our level ones?
Obviously, we put a list together that we voted on.
Are we willing to compromise is what I'm getting at.
If necessary, let's have you guys discuss it on Wednesday.
Okay.
And bring it back here, but
Okay.
I wanted to address,
I want to pull the thread.
Okay.
He just said something I want to pull the thread on. You asked a question, I think. Who said you all discuss it?
Me.
Okay, what does that mean? Does that mean we have the authority to make some decisions in the room?
I would say so.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right, so this idea of being Hueneme-centric, I think is a very narrow way to look at this community fund, the intent of the community benefit fund, because when you say community, the port will define it as the community of the city and the port, okay? It's not the wider, it's not the communities that we think of every day, you know, the community of Port Hueneme or the community of Oxnard or, you know, the neighborhood here or there. They define community for whatever satisfies the needs of the port and the needs of the city together. That's the idea of the lawsuit, was to bring the two entities together so that we could work together and do some great stuff together using this money. I don't have any problem with them going outside Hueneme. Just because they're named Port of Hueneme doesn't mean that they belong to us. They have jurisdiction
They're in
in
our city.
Oxnard and in Silver Strand, and I think even El Rio. I'm not sure. Adam, maybe you can correct me.
What do
But
you-
that's their jurisdiction. So they have every, you know, prerogative, every right to do things in other communities, and I wouldn't fault them for that. So I think in this discussion that you go into on Wednesday, perhaps you can get some clarification on how they view community. Because it keeps coming up, and everybody has a different idea of what this community should
Yeah, so two things.
include.
I think we're talking, I don't want to say apples and oranges. I understand what Councilmember Gama says about the contract, and the contract being between the port and
the city.
the city of Port Hueneme. I get that. But I also know, we know, because it's been discussed or stated in the city port meetings, is that the port sees the same contract when it says the community to them, it means Oxnard Harbor District. So Oxnard, Port Hueneme, and wherever else. Is that correct, Adam? Yes. Yeah. So that's so we are, when we talk about community, that's different. Community means something different to us versus them. And so when we see things in Oxnard, right? That's part of who's part of their community.
Right.
And so, and that's why I'm just saying that we think differently about what community is. It's different.
I think we also think differently about, Councilmember Hernandez said, needs and wants. So are these needs or are these wants? You know, does the statue benefit the city of Port Hueneme? No, but that's a want. It's not a need to have a statue there. And then when it comes to our list, I think I think it's all, you know, we want to support Hueneme High School Robotics. We want to support Real Guppies. We want to support Port Hueneme Explorers. We want to support Nate's Place for wellness and recovery. So again, and I believe we had a pretty good discussion on equine, and I think that very question came up.
She spoke at that meeting.
She was present, yeah.
Yeah.
And I raised the issue that where she was located, because she certainly couldn't perform equine, you know, she couldn't have a horse farm.
Right,
or
but
horse
I
ranch
think,
or
I can't
anything.
remember exactly what she said, but
She
yeah.
said
They
she's not
support-
for
They-
it.
Yeah, and
They have a lot of Hueneme kids.
Yes, right.
Like Inlakeck, remember all the discussions we had about Inlakeck?
Yes.
And then nobody wanted to fund Inlakeck because they didn't have a base, home base in Port Hueneme, but
But we funded them.
we funded them, and they have kids who
From
live in Port
Hueneme,
Hueneme.
right.
So, and the Real Guppies is not in Port Hueneme, but they use our pier. So we do make,
Kevin lives in Port Hueneme, but again, they're right on the border, but they do a lot of school in the city. But I don't know, I just think maybe we spend an awful lot of time on a very little amount of money. I mean, maybe we could come together as two bodies and really work to hopefully define our community. And I would hope that the port could agree that, you know, let's try to get as much services to the city of Port Hueneme. I hope they would agree to that. I don't think they would, but I would hope they would agree to that, considering going back to how this came to being. And then when you look at the agreement outlines for eligible project categories, it's pretty much anything you want it to be, right? I mean, you could read into, you could find what you need to support whatever it is you want to propose. And so that kind of doesn't help us to, you know, come together and sing Kumbaya.
Okay, Councilmember Perez, and then we'll come to you.
So while we're talking about differences between each group, so we can also say they have a different understanding of what this community benefit fund means. They have a different understanding of what the contract is saying we should fund. And that's always been, so we're never going to get them to we're never going to get them to agree to our understanding, so we have to go into this trying to find a way that we're both going to agree on something.
Yeah.
But also, on that point, them talking about we need to look at big picture and them insisting on that, that's not in the agreement either. So they have to be willing to do the same thing. They can't insist on adding extra definitions to an agreement that's not there just because they want to do it, like big picture items. That's not in the agreement either. So everyone has to have a little compromise on this.
That's right. Over to you.
Yeah, so there is a few things that we do agree on, and so that's a good start. And I think going forward with our level ones and trying to get as much money for those programs, I think it's a good start. And then we get to hear the details of and bring those back to council for the things that they put out. But I will say this, since we're in discussion, right? So my first two city port meetings, our dual meetings, it was very difficult. And it was very difficult because Councilmember Gama, you constantly, you trash the port. And these are your personal, not as a council, but as a private resident.
You're absolutely wrong, and
You-
I've had.
well, it's
No,
my,
no.
it's my, I'm still talking.
No, but you're trashing me now, and
No,
that's
I'm
not
just saying,
cool.
you go to the board, county supervisors, and you make these
Nope.
comments.
Okay,
You
so-
make it
Did you
difficult
listen
for-
to the
Okay, so
comments?
hold
No.
on,
Make it
hold
difficult
on.
for
us to
You're-
collaborate.
You're wrong.
Hold
No,
on.
don't blame me. You know, when Jess Herrera uses foul language in an open meeting, you telling me?
You make it difficult to collaborate, period, because
Yeah. Come on, you guys. So let's get back on track. And the discussion now is not helping us. It's not going to help us on Wednesday, have the conversation.
The discussion's been started.
Yeah, but
So I guess we have
we're,
to finish
let's
it.
move
No,
forward.
let's-
Let's not look backward. Let's move
Yes.
forward.
Agreed?
Okay.
I
So-
think we have an agreement,
yeah.
a way forward.
So let me just say this. So discussions have been tough.
Tough.
Discussions, I'm going to say that again. Discussions have been tough, right? And so, like Mayor Pro Tem said, and I think we've gotten to the point now, and I'm glad Councilmember Perez mentioned, you know, giving us the authority to have the conversation. No, from day one, we've been communicating our, I think, without saying it, our dissatisfaction with, I'm trying to be non-political, with the process. And so I think you all just have to give us what we need to be able to have the conversations. I think we've done that, Mayor Pro Tem Mitch. I think we've done that. I want the community to know that we understand that we asked them to go through a process this year. And the last thing I want to do, I'll speak for myself, is to now say, never mind. Because I don't think that's good for the city. It's not good for this council. And if we want to continue to have our people trust us and believe us when we say things, we have to do the right thing. And I think going in the meeting and being able to talk about these things and have the ability to make some adjustments, not that that's what we want to do, but we want to have them be supported. We want them to be supported this year, right? And so we'll do our very best to do what we can to get the support that is requested. But if not, then I think the other option is to not have an agreement and no one gets anything.
That's not going to happen because there is an agreement. So what?
Well,
I
there's
mean,
an agreement for a meeting.
well, first of all,
Hold on, let me say. Our city manager said the next step is a meeting. Just because we go to a meeting doesn't mean anything will change. It doesn't mean that we'll come up with an agreement. So what happens? Then the money goes into a pot. What do? We wait for next year.
so
And the same thing, right?
That's happened.
I've been on this council for 7 years, and it's been difficult every year. So don't blame me. It's difficult every year. It has been difficult every year. We didn't even have a conversation on the money for 3 years, despite repeated attempts to have conversations. And then when Brick was here, we finally had our first real conversation, and the money had built up. And the documentation is there if you want to shake your head, but it's there. But so
Your understanding is different from mine.
it's been difficult. You could talk to prior city council members. It's been difficult every year.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this. I think I'm a great communicator. I think I've learned how to do that. And even with that and the success that I've had in my professional life in communicating and being leaders and partners, it's been difficult. It's been very difficult. So I'm going to leave it at there. I think we have what we need to be able to go in the room and have the conversation. And look, we work for the city. So we're going to always I'm going to always do, and I think Mayor Pro Tem as well, we're going to do what we think is best for us in this city.
For our
And so-
community.
For our community.
Yes.
So that is always my intent with any discussion I have. It's about the community.
I
And
think,
so-
just to say that you guys have done a good job with doing that.
It's a tough job, no
If I
doubt.
could say something.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Something too. It's like when we appointed you, you are our mayor. We voted you in as a mayor, and we voted you in as Mayor Pro Tem. And there's no question about, there is a reason why we put the mayor and the Mayor Pro Tem on the Port City Committee, because it is tough. And it doesn't run like other committees. And you don't get in there with a prepared packet and agenda. But you do, we appoint you because we trust you that you have the skill sets to go in there and represent what we're discussing. And you do have the authority. To ever think that you don't have the authority, and I'm not saying absolute authority, but you have the authority to represent us.
Yes.
And to
we
take
know
what
that.
we've discussed in here and share that in those rooms.
Yes, we know that, and we think that we have it to be able to do it.
And then for Mr. Gama, you know, the items that I said that we should forego were based on need. You know, I don't think we need $20,000 worth of trees.
I don't even know
And
how
I
many
don't think
that's
we
gonna
need
buy.
the feasibility. And then if we already have the $50,000 for grant writing, we can do without the 31, unless they've got some other ideas that you will hear about on Wednesday.
I mean, seriously, Mr. City Manager, how many trees is $20,000 gonna get us?
Yeah, it's
Trees
not.
are pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's not very many mature trees. It could be one mature tree perhaps. And
But-
so, you know, I think the comment was something about Arbor Day. And so like we plant saplings and things like that for Arbor Day. So it could buy some saplings.
But, you know, the other thing I want to say is we have to stop trashing the port and be negative toward their intent or coming up with, you know, these ideas that they're trying to screw us in some way. You know, I think if we go in with that attitude, we're never going to come out with a positive result. I think we got to go in there. They're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We have a future relationship that we need to nurture and work on and do it in a positive way.
I think they need to do the same thing, because I think sometimes it doesn't take us going in their negative and they have their own agenda. I don't think it's always our side that's causing the problem. I think they have a part to play in this, and I think they need to do a better job as well.
Okay. Everybody okay? Everybody good? All right. We had a public comment, so we have before us the recommendation to receive an update from the City Port Joint Committee representatives on the Community Benefit Fund status and provide direction. So I think we have direction. And so we're good. Is there a motion and a second?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, anything else? No? Okay. Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, council member reports. Oh, city manager comments.
Yes, we have a couple of things we want to highlight. First, we wanted to thank everybody for joining us for the Veterans Day ceremony that took place on Veterans Day this year at City Hall. It was a great event. It was probably the largest turnout we've had for the event thus far, and talking about building the relationship up with the port. I know we also had several port representatives, and it was good to see everybody at this event. This year's program, we wanted to highlight that we included a special tribute to a hometown veteran, Tom Morris, who was a decorated Vietnam War veteran. And it was pretty interesting. I know some people got copies of the book that were available on site, but there's a book that chronicled some of the adventures of Mr. Morris, and they told some of those stories. So it was a really interesting ceremony. So we thank everybody for joining us and making that event special this year. We also just wanted to highlight that this project has been in the making for a long time, and as of this week, we have officially moved in our police department dispatch team into the new dispatch communication center. Yeah, I think that it went through multiple iterations over years and years, so we were able to get that completed and get the team moved in, and so far, knock on wood, everything technologically has been pretty smooth, so we want to thank our team for doing that, and now when people call us, they will be calling our new and improved dispatch center.
Councilmember pointed out the door, and I was going to make a comment that it's a really good safety thing. It slides instead of swinging open, and people are trying to run through and get out.
Yep. They don't work on pigs. Pigs will just
Go right
through them. Yeah. I've learned that. But for humans, they're great. So the other thing we wanted to highlight were just some of the upcoming holiday events. We're at that time of year where we're going to have several of these, several holiday events over the next few weeks. The holiday tree lighting celebration will be on Tuesday, December 2nd from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And we invite everybody to join us from starting at 5:30 when the merriment begins, and then leading to the tree lighting, the holiday caroling, and Santa letters. And then we are trying to focus on those events for that tree lighting, and then we're sort of moving some of the more kid-friendly activities to their own, to an additional event, more focused for the kids to be able to have fun and not have to pick and choose if they're going to miss the tree lighting or do this, wait in line for an event. So on December 7th, Sunday, December 7th, we'll have for the first time the Pancakes with Santa Claus, a new event at the community center, the Orvine Carpenter Community Center on Park Avenue, on Park. And so this is a new event. Guests will have an opportunity to eat and take a picture with Santa, and then there'll be lots of festivities outside as well. Activities will include the pancakes, the Santa letter writing that used to be at the tree lighting, a live reindeer exhibit, snow sledding for kids, and a kids craft zone. So we're really trying to make sure that kids have their own special event as part of the holidays.
Is Rudolph going to be there?
I have a feeling, yeah. And then we were planning, up until a couple hours ago, we were planning to remind people to get their tickets for the senior holiday luncheon. It is now sold out, so now we're just reminding everybody, hopefully you got your tickets and you'll join us for that event on Tuesday, then December 9th.
Do we need tickets?
For council members, because we put you to work, you don't need tickets.
Okay.
Yeah. And so on December 1st, last item is just the December 1st agenda forecast. At this time, we have several items scheduled. Presentation for State of the City, Clean Power Alliance update. We've been working with them to sort of provide those annual updates as they get launched. We had on the consent calendar the second reading. That'll get removed now, the second reading of the short-term rental ordinance, because we'll bring back in the future revised introduction ordinance. So that'll come off. But for those business items are all scheduled. We'll have the first annual review of the Port Hueneme Little League agreement. We had that new agreement that got put into place when Bubbling Springs got remodeled. And then we have the modification of the Hueneme Hero Award language, so that then the CAC will have clear direction about how many people to honor moving forward as they start their process again soon. We'll have the 2026 council presentation list that we've started to work through each year and make sure that we have it, that each council member has a chance to discuss the items that could be presented. The 2026 city council meeting schedule, and then the request for the landlord harassment ordinance will return with essentially some information on some of the ordinances passed locally nearby, such as the one in Oxnard, and how that works for the council to receive that information and provide direction. So those items are currently scheduled for the December 1st meeting, and that is everything I have.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. Did you, at the last council meeting, since I wasn't there, mention the turkey dinner giveaway?
We did not mention that.
It's coming up on the 21st.
Is it? Yeah, it's the 21st. I believe the Explorers were posting on it, and we are going to share that post if we didn't already. I'm trying to remember if we posted it or not, but yeah, so it should be the 21st. The turkey dinner giveaway is occurring, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to council member reports and comments.
I have no reports or comments.
Was bringing my mom home from a very important medical appointment today down Hueneme Road in a driving rainstorm without potholes, and it was awesome. And that's a fact. The county did a great job in redoing that road. So for Mayor Pro Tem to suggest that I'm trashing the port is absolutely ridiculous. Trucks do 10 to the 4th power more damage to roads than a car. So, and you know, stating facts is just that, stating facts. So again, We heard earlier about lithium-ion batteries, and I think we talked about this before. And I know of 3 lithium battery fires at the Port of Hueneme, one of which that led to a 6-hour evacuation, and they actually closed down and evacuated the port. We all know about that ship that caught fire, and it was a sister ship to one of the shipping groups that comes to the Port of Hueneme. It caught fire and eventually sunk. So I would hope that we could get that discussion prioritized, because it will happen again, and hopefully it won't happen on a ship. Beacon meeting was canceled. I think we're going to be meeting this Friday, which is good. And have a animal services meeting this Thursday, and they are still overstocked with animals. So if you could help, help.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. So I did miss the last meeting, but I did watch a portion of the meetings and I did review the minutes, so I think I'm pretty much up to date on everything. I did attend all my meetings during the last 2 weeks except the Clean Power Alliance. I just couldn't do it. I just wanted to also mention regarding Clean Power Alliance, that another $250,000 grant program I think is going to be opening up if it's not already open, and it's a good opportunity for nonprofits in our city to think of clean power projects that we might want to apply for. So it's a great program. On the SCAG side of things, SCAG is also doing an internship to teach aspiring planners about SCAG, transportation issues, housing issues, community development. If they'll pay the student a $500 stipend, and they get to hang out with the SCAG work team. And so I think it's a good opportunity for anybody interested in going into community planning. The one highlight of my last couple of weeks was attending the 2025 State of the Region by the Ventura County Civic Alliance. And there's a lot of interesting information about Port Hueneme. I think it would be very fruitful for us to have David Morin come and talk to us and share what's contained in this document as far as the City of Port Hueneme is concerned. And I was going to ask you, James, will I need an agenda request for that, or is that something that you will typically do on your own?
We typically invite them every time there's a State of the Region put out to come present on it.
Okay.
Yes.
I just thought if we could do it early in the year, it would really help us with our goal setting for 2026, because there are definitely some areas that I think we need to focus on. Other than that, I just wanted to thank everybody for your condolences about my mom, and thank you for those of you who showed up in the rain to attend her services. Charles was there the night on Thursday night, and Mayor was there on Thursday night, and James and Mayor Pro Tem were there on Friday in the rain. So I really appreciate all the condolences that I've received, all the support, and thank you, Ms. Gama. Yeah. So thank you. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Hey, sorry for breathing on the mic.
Breathing in the mic.
Sorry. My mic was on. I did take the Calleguas water tour, the Delta Water Conveyance, where most of SoCal gets its water from, and it was very enlightening tour. What I realized is we don't have a water shortage issue, we got a water storage issue, and we need to invest in that infrastructure. A lot of our clean water actually exits under the Golden Gate Bridge, and if we can capture that water and redirect it to SoCal, we won't have a water issue. So that was a very interesting tour. And we do have an aging our aging water delivery now. I think it's 50 years old, and so one major earthquake, the things that keep you up at night. And, we could SoCal can really suffer. Something to think about. I did attend the Knights of Columbus Veterans Dinner after a few hours later after our veterans services. They honored Tom Morris, a captain B-2. He was a B-52 co-pilot in Vietnam, and a very, very interesting story. So we honored Colonel Major Tom Morris. And then just a comment. The data suggests that combustible engines per capita have a higher rate of failure and mishaps. That's all I got.
Great, thank you. Attended all my meetings so far this month, and just wanted to give a shout out to Lieutenant Aviles, who was here earlier today and did a public comment. My head is still woozy, I'm a little sick. The Salvation Army had their first annual kettle kickoff luncheon, and I was pleasantly surprised to know that the Salvation Army for Oxnard and Port Hueneme, and that's officially part of their title. I did not know that. So I was wondering why I got invited, and I sat next to the Oxnard mayor, Mayor MacArthur, and then saw the flyer, and I was like, oh, it's Port Hueneme and Oxnard. So I was just pleasantly surprised. I am hoping, did you and your husband do the ringing one year? Yes. Are you doing that this year?
Yeah, well, we are part of the Ventura Advisory Board, so because it's never been done here.
Right.
We haven't been active here. We've always done it with Ventura.
Oh, okay. I am going to volunteer. I've already kind of put my name in the hat to volunteer to be a ringer, hopefully in Port Hueneme. So if you all are available on that day, I'll figure out what the day is and let you know. Maybe we can, as a council, spend time here in Port Hueneme ringing.
Love to do that.
A weekend?
Like a whole day and split the day up?
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So that's what I'm looking at now. So that's all I have to report. Thank you so much for saying yes to possibly volunteering as well. So with that, are there any, we don't have any requests for agenda items. And so it is now 10:20. I'll adjourn.
I have this Native American Heritage Month proclamation. May I, who shall I deliver it to? And if we don't have someone to deliver it to, I think the Owens Valley Career Development Center might be a good place for it because they do serve Native Americans in Ventura County.
Do we have any, what's the process for proclamations we don't hand out?
So I think last year we had said we would offer to have the Ventureño tribe of the Chumash Tribal Council come accept it. This year they weren't able to attend, so it'd be council's choice of
Okay.
who they'd want to distribute it to.
Is there any opposition to providing it to someone else?
No.
Anyone have any opposition to
Where
that?
are they located?
In Ventura, near the Government Center, they provide TANF benefits and services to nationally recognized groups, Native American groups.
Any opposition? Everybody? Yeah.
Thank you. That's greatly appreciated.
Okay, with that, our next scheduled meeting is December the 1st at 6:30. This meeting is now adjourned. It's 10:21.